All right.
Hey there, YouTube. Welcome on back to the RPG, the solo RPG show that is episode 2 of 2023. Artichoke Dip and Don.
Follow the solo RPG guy.
All right. Well, wow, we got 18 seconds into it, and so far, no viewers. But I'm sure that's going to change here in a moment. So, I guess we should jump right onto it, Don. And
Yep. Well, what are we going to talk about today? What did you have in mind?
Well, we could talk about this new system that I've been playing with, Cypher. For those of you that may not know what Cypher is, you're missing out on a great opportunity, and that being a vast RPG system to where you're unlimited to do what you want to do. You can do anything you want to do, however you want to do it, when you want to do it, and it's perfect for solo RPG.
That's it. Summed it up in a nutshell. Show's over. But yeah, he's right. The Cypher system is a system designed for any genre, any time frame. If you can think it, Cypher system can do it.
Well, I mean, let's dive a little bit deeper into it. Let's talk about the first thing I noticed was, and the RPG system on itself is solid. Everything about it is solid. But the fact that the great wealth of information it gives you for ideas for characters, how to create characters, and being unlimited as to what you can do without restrictions, that to itself is just an amazing resource to have if you're a solitaire player. Because one of the things I think we're always faced with being a solitaire player is you're always trying to come up with that next spark of creativity, that next spark of a good idea, how to keep gameplays interesting, new, and moving forward. And I think, I know the Cypher system, with me just sitting down and making my first character and then going on from there, going, well, wait a minute, I got an idea for this. I'm going to make another character and then another character. And it's so easy to make. It's so simple. It's an excellent game. I mean, how do you feel about? I mean, you've been playing this longer than I have, Don. I'm new to it. You've been playing this for a while now.
Well, like I've said before, and like I told you, that right there is my solo go-to game. As we were just talking about before the show, I was laid back in a recliner. I grabbed the Adventure Crafter cards, and I was just doing a mental exercise. I was just flipping cards and doing a mental exercise and creating the scenes in my head. And then I was like, this would be cool to play. So I reached over, grabbed my Cypher system character, I grabbed the D20, and I was playing on a little tiny TV tray. And as most of us who do solo, when we do solo, we take up a good chunk of real estate. We got our books, we got our notepads that we're journaling, we got our dice pool or our dice box or whatever. When you look at the videos of people playing solo, they're taking up the whole entire table. And I'm sitting here having the greatest old time on this little tiny TV tray, and all of a sudden I said, I need to get up and start writing this down. Before I knew it, I had a complete session, and this literally played itself. It was so easy. It's like I actually had to stop a couple of times, grab the book and read it to make sure I was doing what I was doing correctly. And I'm like, yeah, for a book that's over 430 pages, the system itself is simple. And we're going to go over how simple that system is.
The simplicity of the system is the secret behind it. Ever since I started my channel, and even you, Don, I've heard you even say this before in your videos and reference to it. And that is, okay, it's the same principle in my trade that I do as a mechanic. That is drilled into your head. And to remember this acronym, KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple.
Simple, stupid.
And the more you do that, the easier it's going to be for you to run a game. Now, I've seen comments where people like to run Pathfinder 5e and 3.5 and stuff like that because they said, hey, I really enjoy the rules crunch of it all. This is what really gets it for me. Okay, well, Hey, cool. But for me, I enjoy my 3D terrain and my miniatures, but I also enjoyed the immersion of the story. And just like I was, throwing some ideas your way, Don, when me and you were corresponding, and I threw out an idea hey, I wonder how this next scenario would do if I was to run it this way. And I don't want to ruin that because I'm going to move forward with that, and you guys will see that soon enough. It's simple. It's a simple system. And for solitaire RPG, it's a beautiful, well written, well thought out system. And the only way you're ever going to know is to experience it yourself. That's the best way to do it.
Exactly. Let's go over and just explain just how simple a system this is.
Oh, before I just got a message in here. It says, "Hi, Grim Albuquerque." I guess you know what that refers to. It's from our mutual friend.
Okay.
You know what that is now.
All right. No, let's just explain how simple a system this really is.
Okay.
I'll let you start. And if you mess up, because I know you're the newbie, you just got it. What, you just got your book, 2 weeks ago? So this would be like a training session.
Yep. So first thing is let's talk about the character concept and how it goes about this. A lot of RPG games you're going to get into, you're going to find that you're very limited to the catalog of what they give you, be it a race, a class, and what you're able to do within the parameters of their rule sets. Whereas the Cypher system's different. When you sit down to create a character, you come up with a very brief description. My character is a rogue that, let's say, has an obsession for, I don't know, expensive doilies. We'll just throw that out there, okay? You can build a character for that. You can make that. You can make an entire campaign around that where your character could be endlessly going through committing larceny and breaking into expensive people's homes to round up their doilies for whatever reason. And it would work. And it's going to lay it out for you. The other cool thing that I like that I saw, you don't have to roll dice for attributes. So instead of sitting down, you got your 4d6 and you drop your lowest one and you add it up. Then you're left with your 6 stat scores and you're looking at what's the best possible way to put these in to get the best advantage out of this character. You start out with a flat number and you're given a few extra points to be able to go in there and tweak them and make it more the way that you want it. But it just goes further than that. You go into your focus, you go into your descriptors. All of this is adding extra layers of not only just more benefits for your character. If you want to look at it as an advantages, that's one good way to look at it. This just steamrolls. It just keeps going and building until when you're done, you're astounded how this one little spark of thought in your mind that you wrote down on the piece of paper has now turned into, wow, this is amazing.
Yep. In simple terms, your character is defined as, I am a blank who blanks. The first blank is called your descriptor. And the descriptor would be, what's that one word to describe your character? If I was to stand there and talk to your character for 10 minutes and walk away and go talk to Rob, and Rob says, in one word, explain that dude. How would you explain that dude? Okay, that's your descriptor. Each descriptor in the book gives you different abilities. Strangely enough, if there's not a descriptor in there that fits, you can make your own descriptors. Done.
Absolutely.
Yep. And then your next part of that sentence, the blank blank, well, that's your noun. That would be as best described as your class. Tip now, in the book, they give you 4 classes: the warrior, the expert, the speaker, and the adept. Obviously, that's common sense. The warrior is your fighter type. The explorer is your skill monkey, your thief, whatever. Your adepts are your mages, and if you're playing in a scientific setting, your scientists, your speakers, those are your bards, or anyone who's just good, charisma wise, the voice of the party.
Be a druid, could be if you're playing a modern, that could be possibly a diplomat. Literally, the only thing hindering you from making the character that you want is you.
And if you don't like those classes, they show you how to make your own class.
Yes.
So if your class isn't in there, here's how you make it. So descriptor, noun, and then who verbs. That's your focus that he was talking about. That's that one thing you specialize in that as you go up in levels, or tiers as it's called in this game, you'll get better at. Well, guess what? If you don't like those, they show you how to make your own. So guess what, guys? Anything you can think of, you can play in this game. I'm looking at what books I have out, and I'm looking at all the settings that each of those books represent. I can play this game in any of those settings. It don't matter. I mean, most of mine are fantasy, but if I had a sci-fi setting, I could do it. If I wanted to play Dracula in America, I can do it. As I was joking around with the CU boys, if I want to do killer clowns in outer space, I can do it. If I want to play Warhammer 40K, I can do it. You name a setting, it can be played in this system.
And he's absolutely right. How vast this book is, and it has its own section devoted to each genre to give you ideas to be able to. And the cool thing is that I like about that is, and I'm going to flip to it here, Don, so we can. I'm going to go to the fantasy section. Just hold on with me for.
The race is on. Who can find it first?
The cool thing is it goes into. I'm going to use spells here. So, it explains your first spell. Any character can use any spell. Wizards and the optional spell casting rule. So, right there, it's already showing you that. Let's say you want to play a fantasy game, but maybe you want to change up the way that magic works in that world. Maybe instead of playing a game to where magic is so prevalent and everywhere, maybe it's more or less something more like what we see in Middle Earth, to where magic is not as common, and when it does occur, it's a monumental event that does take place. So even that in those parameters, going into the modern, I mean, if you go into chapter 14, you get into the modern settings, it just keeps building from there on out. The horror settings, so that's huge for me. I like Call of Cthulhu. I like horror. I'm a horror buff. Majority of movies I watch are horror movies, and I just enjoy that. So that's in my first character I created is based on a horror setting. So they haven't even romance. Now, to be honest with you, every part of this book, probably the least part that I'm going to actually use will probably be chapter 17. But for other people out there, people who enjoy the Game of Thrones, War of the Roses, though, that type of area of history that may pique your interest in with gaming, it's giving you an entire chapter of how to create and make them stories and move those along. And it's giving you a tremendous amount of freedom. It does not hold you back. That's the thing that I love about it.
Yeah, when he's referring to the various genres, it gives you ideas for fantasy, modern, science fiction, horror, romance, superheroes, post-apocalyptic, fairy tale, and historical. That's just what's described in this book.
I'm going to look at a couple of we got the questions building up here. So let's get into a couple of these. So we got Colin Anderson. What's up, guys? How you doing, Colin? Shout out to you. Hope you're doing great tonight. Okay, so Sentinot 7.8. That's unique. You guys play solo sandbox. Do you generate hooks for your characters and explore as you want? Question mark. Absolutely.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
I mean, any RPG, that's, you know, you're going to want character hooks. You're going to want to have something to be able to have a plot line to run off your main line to keep the story interesting. Because if not, it's just going to, you know, become very boring very fast.
In fact, that if I was, you know, if I get a new system, that's usually what I do is I'll sit down and create a little sandbox and generate a quick hook. It don't matter. And then do an exploration of whether it's a dungeon crawl or a hex crawl, just so I can get used to those rules. Just so happens with the Cypher system, you do it in your sleep.
Very, very true. And we're going to jump back into this. So Colin Anderson asked what system. We are currently looking at the Cypher system. And
yep, that's what looks like Sentinel 7.8 answer that question for us. Thank you.
So let me see Colin Anderson's other comment here. I play with huge printed out mats taped together. Takes up a quarter of my room. Ha ha ha. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I remember seeing this post, and it was from a structural engineer that enjoyed Dungeons and Dragons. And he had decided to take Castle Ravenloft as it was presented, but actually break out the square footage into if you were to actually build this structure. But he had to do it on a miniature size. And he says, you know, to his wife's just absolute horror, because her house had been taken over with these series of pieces of graph paper. They had put everything together and figured it out. Just the monumental size of it. He was just like, holy crap, to build a representation for a 28 millimeter figure would literally take out 3 entire rooms of my house. So that's, you know, food for thought. But
yep.
Anyways, Don, the simplicity, the encounters of Cypher.
It's
I mean, how simple is
well,
it?
it's very simple. All you have to do is the DM is decide how difficult the thing that you're trying to do is on a scale from 0 to 10. That's it, 0 to 10. And whatever number you come up with, multiply that by 3, and that's what you have to roll on the D20 to succeed. That is simple.
What you're saying is I could take any encounter from any game system that I have on this shelf and import it into Cypher, into the current game, and have it be balanced. And of course, I know I can, but that is exactly what he is saying. That is exactly what Cypher is.
Exactly. I mean, in most role-playing games, you roll a d20, you add a bunch of modifiers, you subtract a bunch of modifiers, and you hope you hit the saving throw number or the armor class or whatever. But in this game, it's just simply you decide 0 through 10, and you come up with that to multiply that number by 3, and there's your number. Now, from that number, here's where you start using your skills and your assets and a thing that they call effort in this game to try to lower that number. So that, okay, Rob, if you want to jump over this pit, that's a super far pit. I hate to tell you this, but you're looking at a difficulty 9 jump. And Rob's going to sit there and do the math in his head and go, oh my God, 27. How do I roll a 27 on a 20-sided die? Donald, you're crazy.
A 30.
No, I'm not. Oh, yeah, you go grab a 30-sided. But no, all he has to do is he's specialized in the skill of jumping. Well, that will drop the modifier down 2 points. He's got a pair of magic boots that make jumping easier. All right, well, that drops it down by another point. There's a friend on the other side reaching out to help him. That's another asset. So now that difficulty 9 has become a 5. 5 times 3 is 15. He can actually try to roll a 15 now, as opposed to about 27 2 seconds ago. And that's how simple and easy it is to modify. If you can multiply by 3, you can play this game. If you can't multiply by 3, we can't help you.
The other cool thing that I do like about Cypher is with the 20-sider, how you look at how if you roll a 1, you get a GM intrusion. A 17, 18, 19, and then a 20, they're all monumental events unto themselves. 17 gives you a +1 to your damage, and 18 a +2, 19 a +3, then 20 is a critical, a monumental earth-moving event, if you will, has occurred. Reason why I like this is for solitaire play. That's excellent. That spices up things. That really does help with the storyline. It helps with as things move along. It keeps it refreshing and new, because when that does occur, you're just like, yes, rather than, like you said, with modifiers going, okay, I know I have to hit this number and add this and this and this, and I'll get that, and I should be able to hit that target number. And then after a while,
well, I mean, how many RPGs do you own, and how many RPGs period that are out there that, you know, you gotta get a DM screen, because the DM screen's got, you know, all the modifiers on it, and you got to remember it, or you got to take yourself out of the game to look at the screen to figure out, okay, I'm attacking in the dark, that's -4, but I have a +3 strength, and I'm specialized, and let me do all that. No, all you got to do is just, okay, it's something good, it drops a number. It's something bad, it adds 1. And then when you get to that new number, whatever, that multiply by 3, that's it.
And see, the beauty of all that, like I said in the beginning of the video, is that alleviates a lot of work off of you as a solitaire player, and it gives you more opportunities to be able to really work on your story narrative, how you want to take the story, how you want to develop the characters. It can also help, particularly if you enjoy, and I know not everybody enjoys maybe a combat style RPG. Maybe some people enjoy a more story driven RPG. With the Cypher system, this is going to help you develop more elaborate, in-depth NPCs and move that along. If you look at the way that the Cypher system is designed, the thing that I love about it, the story arc, it already has built into that system certain, if you'll put it, we'll say victory points along the way as you're playing your RPG sessions to reach, to be able to more or less, here's where it starts, here's the middle of your story, and this is where it's going to conclude before you start the next one. So it's really a well thought out, excellent system. And a lot of systems, you just do not see that. You just kind of see, this is an RPG. This is how you make your attributes. This is how you fill out the character sheet. Here are your encounters. This is the world. Goodbye. That's pretty much what you get, you know. Whereas with the Cypher system, really, it's a rich, full system compared to what I have seen come out in a long, long time. Now, I'm not saying that, like, I'm not saying anything bad about,
right. I mean, yeah, they're all good games out there. I mean, I got, you know, a ton of RPGs I still like. They're not my number one go-to, but they're the ones I like out over here on my shelf that I keep available too. Because, you know, I'm like you. Every once in a while, I got to have the miniatures, so I want one that's highly tactical. Cypher isn't highly tactical because there's not a whole lot of tactical rules. This is more of a narrative, more type game. You can use miniatures probably to show general relative position, but it's not like any other game where you got to worry about flanking and attack of opportunity and this, that, unless that's something you want to incorporate into your game. Then you can say, oh, I'm flanking, that's an asset. You can do that, or, you know, that kind of stuff, but it's not super tactical. If all you want to do is concentrate on the story, you can do that. And you still have, you know, some combat options, obviously. No, there's not an RPG out there on the planet, I don't think, that has combat rules. That's usually the first rules that come in the book right after character creation. But yeah, like I said, I was sitting in a reclining chair, reclined all the way back in a little tiny TV tray on my side, and I was able to play no problem.
Okay, so we got a couple of comments. Let's first thing is Kathy Evans. Hi, hello, Kathy, and thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome. Sentinot 7.8 asks, what's better about Cypher than Savage Worlds or Open Legend?
Well, the question I have for you, Sentinot, is what do you like about Savage Worlds and Open Legend? Because I have Open Legend, and I've played Savage Worlds, and I've seen Savage Worlds, but I need to know what it is about those that you like. Otherwise, our answer is just going to be us guessing what you like. I mean, we can give you a zillion reasons why we like Cypher better than those systems, but that may not be what you're looking for. So can you give us a little hint of what you're looking for? Unless you have an answer, Rob.
Savage Worlds, I have somewhere around here. I do have, I think it's the second printing of their original rule set. Played it for a little bit. It wasn't bad. It's a D4 system, exploding D4s.
Actually, I think it's more like a progressive die system because you can get D6s and D8s and D12s in it too. But it works. The target number is always based on the 4. That much I remember.
I just really, for me, it could be for the fact that the way that I was introduced to it was a gentleman was running this. There's supposed to be Call of Cthulhu campaign, and that's when we used to have game stores near me, which we don't anymore. So I had, went in and made a character, started playing some game sessions with them. We quickly realized, first of all, the guy the entire game was a railroad. Anytime you wanted to engage with any NPCs or anything like that, you were totally shut down. And overall, it was a struggle just to stay awake through the game sessions. So for me, I think it kind of like almost tarnished it for me, because every time I look at that game, I'm kind of reminded of like, yeah, I remember that too, where he kept trying to get new players in, and people would come in and within 20 minutes they're snoring at the table. I mean, it was like, come on, man, you got to change something up. There's,
Well, my immediate answer for Centenaut would be it's just a whole lot easier. I mean, I have Open Legend. I know what you're talking about there. And playing Open Legend, a lot of times I had to stop to go reference a rule to make sure I was doing something right. And okay, I had to memorize all those little rules that are in Open Legend. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the game. It's a very good game. But if if I got Open Legend sitting here, my copy of Open Legend, and I got my copy of Cypher, and the house is getting ready to burn down, and I got 3 seconds to make a decision and get out, and everybody else is safe, and the pets are safe, and the people are safe, and I get to grab that one book that I get to save, I'm grabbing my Cypher system. Open Legend can burn.
And another thing too, the way you look at it, what kind of RPG system do you really like? Do you like roll ROLE systems, or do you like roll ROLL systems? Because there is a difference, and there are game systems out there to facilitate that, just depending on what kind of system you like. Sentinel 7.8 says all 3 are universal systems.
Well, yeah, they are. But I mean, of the choice, if I had to choose, like I said, I've played Savage Worlds. I don't own any of the books. So that's one thing right there. I don't own any of the books. I'm not inclined to buy those books. I have Open Legend, and I have Cypher, and I have a couple of the genre books. But yeah, to me, Cypher is a whole lot easier to run. You can run it. You literally can run this in your sleep if you think about it. Because I mean, all you have to do on the DM side is figure out that difficulty number. Everything is player facing. So now you can actually play the game. You're concentrating more on that player side as opposed to the DM side. When Rob was playing his Cypher system video, if you go look on his previous video, he was just looking for a random DC. He rolled a D4, he rolled a 4, multiplied it by 3. Oh, I need a 12. Yep. That was it. That was his random way of determining. And for me, yeah, 3 and 4, that's where you stick when you want average, because a 3 would be a 9 on a D20, and a 4 would be a 12. And those are your 2 cusp points at that middle of that 10. So if you want roughly a 50-50 chance of success, which is usually where you start off anyway when you're first level or whatever, yeah, 3 and 4 is where you want to be. And then, 5 is getting to be that tougher guy. And then 6 is probably like the toughest you want to be at first level. And then as you go up in level, you can progressively move on up to the higher numbers. But yeah, 3 and 4 is usually where you keep it. So as long as you remember 9 and 12, you're usually good. And then all you have to do is just decide, do you have any assets? Do you have any, or if you want to apply effort, which we haven't even gotten to applying effort yet.
Effort is, yeah, I do like effort. It's particularly, here's the other thing about Cypher, and it gets into effort, gets into skills, and it gets into the other various aspects of the Cypher system. That's XP. I do like how the XP system works to where, let's look at some other RPG systems where you're constantly focused on the XP to get to the next level, to be able to get maybe that bonus to your hit bonus, to get that extra spell, to be able to unlock a new feat, to what have you, depending on, gonna guess the vast majority of people out there play D20 systems, where Cypher, that is awesome. You get a GM intrusion, you get XP. You roll a 20, you get XP. And as you use that XP to increase your efforts, to increase your abilities, to increase your stats, that's the beauty of it. So you have this, every time you play, you know you're going to gain experience. And you have this incentive to actually put back into your character and keep developing your character rather than having the what we've come to expect with D20 systems over the years, a cookie cutout system is what I like to refer to it as.
Yeah, I've as we discussed many times, anytime I see strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma, I'm like, oh, it's another D&D copycat. I mean, I was the guy late to the party for Scarlet Heroes and Worlds Without Number because all the previews were showing strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity. To me, I was like, please tell me this game is different. Luckily, there was enough to make it different where I got those books, and those are good books. But normally, yeah, with D20 systems, it's usually a copy of D&D or Pathfinder in some way, shape, or form. And like you said, how many different copies of a game do you need where there's only a few minor variations, okay? They may have did ascending armor class versus descending armor class. So that, they may have taken all 5 saving throws and condensed it into one number. I don't need 20 different systems with minor changes. That's why, yeah, whenever I see strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, I'm already turned off. This game, you only got to worry about 3 stats. Let's see if we can. All you got to do is worry about might, speed, and intellect.
Yep.
And here's where the effort comes in. Those skills or those attributes, they also act as your effort pool, and they're also your hit points. So now you have a strange dichotomy going on. Do I burn this point of might or these points of might to hit the guy? Or do I risk it and not use it, and then he might hit me? So now you have to think about that too, because when you apply effort, the first level of effort costs you 3 of those points. So if you're using something strength related, that would be might. If you're working on speed something related, dodging, jumping, whatever, that would be speed. If you're doing a mental type thing, a magic, or we'll call it a charisma, a NPC interaction type thing, that's intellect. You pay 3 points and it will lower that DC by 1. And as you go up in level, you can apply more points. There's also another strange little thing in here, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's a thing called edge.
Yes.
Edge. If you have an edge in an ability, then the first time you apply that effort, the cost is reduced by that edge. So in this character, which is a first level character, he's got an edge 1. So instead of 3 points for that first level of effort, it's only going to cost him 2. As he goes up in level, I get 2 or 3 in there. I got free effort, 3 levels of effort. And also your special abilities are also powered by these pool points. Or at least a lot of them are. Not all of them, but a lot of your abilities are. Like my guy here, what does he got? He's part cleric. He took Blessing of the Gods for war. It'll cost him 1 intel to target someone within short range to do an extra 2 points of damage on their next attack. So that's where I have to make, that's where that dichotomy of action economy comes into play.
Well, the thing that I have to say, I made a new character last night, and based off the idea that I had here, I don't want to spoil it too much. But I was astounded by the way how the spells are reflected by the abilities and what you're able to do with them and the freedom that you are given with these to be able to. It's all story driven. So one thing I have noticed about a lot of RPG systems out there, particularly D20 systems, you have a vast amount of spells that you can choose from, but you are very regulated as to how you can use them, saving throws against them, and
most of them are just variations of the same thing. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
at low level you get the fire bolt, and at higher levels you get a fireball, and then at ninth level you can do meteor swarm. All you did was just change the range and change the area of effect. This happens naturally over time in this game.
Right. Another game that I brought up recently that I really liked the magic system on, that in Cypher, like you were explaining, the freedom you had in there was the fact that when it comes to magic, the power you put into it is how devastating the spell will ultimately be. So it doesn't matter the level of the magic user that's casting it. It just the amount of effort that that magic user wants to put into it for the final outcome, rather than that power being dictated by the character level, which that interests me way more. That is just more freedom when I'm playing my sessions, especially if I want my wizard to, bring himself almost to the brink of death, charging this spell up to be able to annihilate. We'll say
that's another thing you can do with effort. You can also, instead of applying effort to lower your DC, you can apply effort to do extra damage. But that's with anything, whether you're swinging a sword, casting a spell, or whatever. To go over what he was just talking about, there is an ability in the book called Onslaught. It's one of the first abilities that the lower level mages and clerics get. And basically, it lets you shoot something up to long range. It does 4 points of damage base. That right there, depending on how you flavor it, is your magic missile. I'm my dwarf, who's being a cleric. If you remember in D&D, there's that spiritual weapon. Well, he has an actual real hammer he holds in his hand, and he just extends his arm out, and another duplicate hammer spectrally appears, and that gets shot out, and that's my weapon. I'm throwing a spectral hammer whenever I cast my onslaught. That's his way of, that way he keeps his hammer. He's got his real hammer in his hand, but my onslaught spell, that's how I've decorated it. That's how I've trapped it. For those of you who play Savage World, that's the same thing as trappings.
Okay, so I'm going to let you answer this one here, Don. 7.8 says, I play more FKR super light rules. I was wondering if Cypher was lighter than Savage Worlds and OL.
Open Legend. Yeah, Open Legend. Yes. After you watch our show, go to YouTube, in the search bar, type Cypher system, and and in your video list, watch the video from the Dungeon Noob. That's the video I sent to Rob and had him watch. And that's how he learned how to do the Cypher system. Out of all the videos out there on the internet, that is the best video explanation of the game. And you should be able, and it's like a half hour long. You watch that, you'll have all the information you need to know.
It's funny you mentioned that. I ran across another video, and that YouTuber was using pieces of his video to explain the Cypher system on his, which I thought was rather interesting.
Yeah, that Dungeon Noob guy, he did I mean, that's why you'll never see me do a video on it, on how to play the Cypher system. That guy's already done a great job. Anything I do would be paltry compared to his. That's why I just say, hey, go watch his video. I don't need to make one. Why would make another how-to video when there's already a great one online? You know what I mean? I get kind of mad when, I see someone make the first video pops up on, this system, and then you got 15 other videos all saying the same thing. How many different videos do you need to learn how to play Dungeon Crawl Classics? Or how many different videos do you need to make a Pathfinder character? Half these people, some of their videos are okay, but there's always that one that's great. And that's the one that should just stay up there, and the rest should just go away because you're confusing everybody else. That guy who did the Dungeon Noob, that's the perfect how to play Cypher video, period.
So Colin Anderson says, I play Dungeon Crawl Classics. I love the magic system. Well, it's good. I mean, whatever game you are playing that you enjoy, that's the secret to it. Don't take us wrong when we're talking about it. What me and Don are referring to is over the years of playing the same system, same magic sets, same all that, to see something new come along and inventive, and to be able to spark that you thought of creativity again is a refreshing thing. And I hope that you run across a system like that one day, and that will do the same for you. And if Dungeon Crawl Classics is doing it for you, then game on, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played Dungeon Crawl Classics, but I've watched enough videos on the subject. I know how the magic system works, and that's not a game for me. But if that's your jam, play it. Like we said, we're not the internet police. I mean, it doesn't matter what game. Just because we're talking about the Cypher system doesn't mean you guys have to go out and get the Cypher system. Although I'm sure Monte Cook Games would love it if you did. But just because we're talking about the Cypher system doesn't mean you got to go get it. Whatever system you got, if you're happy with it, great. Me, I like to tinker around with a lot of different things. And me and Rob, we've already discussed this. We both suffer from the same disease. It's called RPG ADD. We like to jump back and forth between a couple of them. But like I said, if everything was to go down and the house was to burn down and I only had enough time to grab the one book, that's what I'm grabbing. I'm grabbing Cypher before I run out the door. Oh, we got Cadlin in the house. And thank you for popping up, Cadlin, because Rob, when we go off the air and we do our little after chat, I have a suggestion for you. Cadlin came up with an idea for a video for us to do. And I don't want to say it live, because if I say it live, everyone's going to, you guys got to do it. You guys got to do it. And or before we do it, another YouTuber might steal it. So I'll keep that quiet until after the show. But thank you for popping in, Cadlin. Nice seeing you. And I hope you're staying warm, because I know it was cold where you were at.
Mad Max asks, Artichoke, you ever played Mork Borg solo? Absolutely, I have. That's I like to use my dice, and I love the old school feel and jive of it in this basically dying world. It's excellent. I have referred it. I had talked about it in videos, and a lot of people have said it's too dark for me. So, yes, absolutely. I enjoy Mork Borg, and I've seen they come out with a lot more goodies to their catalog. I've seen they released a GM's screen for it, as well as, if I'm remembering this, no, the Heretic is what I recently just picked up. No, I picked up the this one right here, Fear Tour. So I'm going to pick up the Heretic next, which is their latest release. So if that answers your question, my friend, I hope so.
All right, I'm just going to give you all a quick little demonstration here. Just give me half a second. Yep, all right. That's about right. As I mentioned before, the Cypher System book is over 400 pages.
Oh, it's a monster.
That little section right there, roughly 30 pages, are all the rules. That's the rules. That's it. And it's, it's not like a text cram. There's pictures in there, and it's spread out nicely. And, it's an easy read. That's all you need to know. 30 pages, and most of it, we've already discussed most of it already on this stream. So you're already halfway through. That is information on the descriptors and powers and character creation, and that, I mean, even though it looks a lot, most of that is abilities. That's how many abilities are in this game.
One thing I will say about the Cypher system, okay, depending on the type of RPG player you are, and that's why I said there's role player, ROLL, meaning you're very dice heavy, you like to use dice, you like a lot of crunch, you like maybe you like mixing war game elements into it, to where you are now, like how I do with my minis, you are counting off the exact movement You are measuring, you want line of sight, you're looking at cover, you're looking for bonuses, you're looking for anything to give you the advantage. The Cypher system does not operate that way. The Cypher system is a far more loose system, to where when it comes to time and movement, it's more or less left up to the player and the game master to be able to take that into account. And so, for instance, if you're playing older, I'm going to say campaign modules of D&D that had the big fold out topographical maps with it, and you remember the old acetate cover sheets that you would put over it with your hexes to be able to do your hex crawl, figure out the time it would take for your characters to cross that landmass, and then figure that onto your game sessions and so on and so forth. Cypher doesn't really do that. So you could have the scenario, hey, they traveled here, they didn't encounter any encounters, and it took them 2 days to reach your destination, and now this is where we're at.
Yeah,
So,
this is what you would call more of a narrative game. I mean,
yeah,
there are rules, but there's not like a ton of them. You know, you got your narrative and you got your simulation. This falls on the narrative side.
which is, you know what, it's really good. Like the comment you made to me when we were talking, and you said, well, you know, hey, if you roll a 1, try going to the mythic and rolling on the table. And I was like, okay, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's how I do my GM intrusions. Obviously, I don't have a GM in front of me saying, oh, I'm going to do an intrusion. So I'm like, okay, if I'm doing the narrative thing and I'm really only rolling a D20, then yeah, when I roll that nat 1 by rules of Cypher system, that's when the GM is supposed to come in with the intrusion. So I'm like, you know, this would be the perfect time to call that intrusion a random event, because usually the random events intrude on your character anyway. So it's the perfect time to do it.
Here's another food for thought, guys. With typically what we've just seen with Wizards of the Coast, and a lot of people are now disenchanted with the name Dungeons and Dragons or Wizards of the Coast. They've kind of seen the corporate greed behind it, to where if you look at their game system, everything. Let's just take a good look at D&D, and this is why I say the Cypher system is so great. So to play D&D, to play 5e today, as it is written, you need to buy the Dungeon Master's Guide, you have to have the Player's Handbook, and you have to have the Monster Manual. So you're into buying 3 hardcover books and having to have those at your disposal to be able to play the game. Now, the Cypher system, if you look at this, you're getting an entire RPG system here in one book. You're getting everything, and you're getting the freedom to be able to add whatever encounter you want, to take it any way you want, and you only have to buy one book. So that's really food for thought. The way that I'm looking at it is, like we've seen with larger game companies that just want to get more money out of you. Everything is, you want to expand your character class, you want some more options, that's no problem. Here's a supplement for just $49.95. You know, food for thought there. It's something that I look at. Maybe it's because I'm a cheapskate. I don't know. Or maybe
Shields puts down here, that's not completely true. 5e has a free SRD that's playable on its own. That is correct. But if you can tell, between me and Rob, we're old guys. We like our dead trees. Yeah. I don't do a PDF at the table. If I have an electronic device at the table, it's playing music. I'm not using it for online stuff. I like my dead tree. I'm used to flipping through pages. And a lot of people are like that. Yeah, it is true that there is a 5e SRD out there, but you know.
So here's my whole reason, and I'm going to throw this out there because I know a lot of people like to use the PDFs and everything. Tabletop gaming is my hobby, and it's a relaxing hobby. I disconnect. I want nothing to do with the internet. I don't want anything, any electronic device, nothing. Okay, rare exception which I will have is if I'm playing a soundtrack and I am streaming music off of Spotify.
That's the only time I'm using an electronic device is to listen to music. Exactly.
I don't engage with the electronic world whatsoever when it comes to my gaming. It's in here. It's in the real world. It's a time to disconnect and get away from all of that and focus on what's physically real here in front of me.
Exactly. I'm the same way. Unless it's playing music, I'm not. No, I don't want no electronic mess around me.
So we got Bruno Lampira that says, hello, guys. Hello, Bruno, and welcome to the show. Glad you're in. Shields, you already covered that with the SRD. Yep, analog pen and paper, that's what does it for me too. So
Yep.
Good to hear that, Colin. And absolutely. I made a video where I talked about this, and there's tabletop RPG is actually, it's a hobby. And if you look at what a hobby means you make something. When you're done with it, you have something to show. Whereas if you buy a miniature skirmish game and you open that up and you look at all the pieces and you got to glue everything together, you have to assemble it, you have to paint it, you have to go through all them steps, and then when you're done, you have them game pieces to play the game. That is a hobby game. If you're doing, and I'm not knocking anybody for the electronic experience, don't take it that way. For me, that's a very relaxing, meditative, rewarding thing to do. With the electronic, I just don't get that. I see that there's just too many distractions going on at once. Maybe you're trying to play the game, then the banner pops up. Now you got a text message from your friend, and the rabbit hole goes on from there to where you're being lured away from what you're actually there for in the first place. So that's the reason why I don't engage with it.
And I'm going to go back even further to the days, when I was sitting around the table playing with a group. There was always that one guy that had his cell phone out and, hey, okay, it's your turn. What are you doing? It's your turn. Which character doing? Oh, what's going on? Huh? Or in the middle of the thing, the DM's describing the situation like, oh, look at the score of the next football game. Like, dude, we're here to play this game. We don't care about that football game. When we take a break, you can talk about the football game. But while we're at the table, you need to be paying attention because, we've just wasted 5 minutes because you've been sitting there texting and watching and doing everything on an electronic device and not paying attention to what's happening here. You're either playing this game or you're playing with your phone. But you can't do both. Yep, I understand sometimes. No screens. Yeah. Yep.
Richard, I understand absolutely. And that's the thing our hobby is all about, really. It's what attracts me to tabletop gaming.
I'll be right back, Rob. You hold on for a second.
Hey, no problem. Sure, many people out there may feel that way, or you may strongly oppose it. Either way, it's up to you. But I can say there is truly a magic to tabletop RPGs, to utilizing your own imagination and not relying on inputs that may try to spur you to buy more into a logo. That's just where I'm going to leave off with that. I think it's enough about that. Do you have any more questions out there that you would like to ask about Cypher, any other RPGs, anything like that? Feel free to drop them into the comment box. We'll be more than happy to get to them. I think let me see, what can we go at this point? He's back. I was running out of ideas here, Don.
Oh, well, I guess we can move on to, I guess we can talk more about the Cypher system. Let's see. I know we already hit the important parts, but let's talk about so many different things. We just can't narrow it down. It's just that analysis paralysis kicking in. Well, I think I already mentioned all the different genres.
We talked about dice mechanics, character creation.
Yep. See, Bruno wrote something here. Saw your last video about your solo game. How does that work? And also that book about dungeons. I guess he's talking about your last video.
Last video. So what Are you referring to the randomized table, or are you referring to the Cypher system?
He's asking what kind of tables does it have. So I'm thinking he's referring to your Dungeons book.
So I'm going to show you two here that I'm going to talk about. You guys are lucky because I haven't even done a video on this yet, so you'll get to see it. So Dungeon Tables, which is this one, is actually designed for a game master to be able to sit down and throw a dungeon together on the fly if he doesn't have a pre-generated one made. But the cool thing is, for a solitaire player, the way that let me just read this entry for you right here, and you'll see what I mean. I opened up to the page. It says, the altar has been carved into the trunk of a tree. The entrance is hidden like a secret door. And when it is opened, it reveals a large space that is highly polished and looks as ornate as the nicest homes. Except for one problem. The tree has been infested with beetles, and they are slowly eating away the support walls of the altar. So that's just a description to an entrance. You could take that into a whole entire session of gaming if you wanted to. And it breaks it up into a multitude of different tables, starting from altars, archways, atmosphere, chest, corpses, doors, trapdoors, entrances, floors, fountains, growths, light sources, locks, mirrors, miscellaneous oddities, odd sounds, peculiar, and it just goes on and on. Now, I was going to hold off on this because I want to talk about it a little bit more in detail. I wanted to do a video on when you play solitaire, what's one of the things, and I'm going to ask you, Don, your characters come into a room and there's a trap.
No, I don't want a trap.
And with a solitaire player, that's one of the things where you're kind of like going, I got to engineer the demise of my own characters.
Well, first of all, okay, you're telling me that there is a trap there. Well, I just look at the game and, okay, perception, trap detection, whatever the said skill is, I'll at least give my character the chance to find and disable the trap. But if he fails, and I normally just keep on walking under normal circumstances, so I'm just going to keep on walking and fall into that trap. So I'm assuming the book you're talking about has a way of creating traps.
Ty Ink's Treasure of Traps. This is also written by Steve Jabot. He's the same one. Now, this is an entire book unto itself about traps. And some of these are just absolutely horrible. Now, they go into detailed descriptions of how to detect a trap, how to disarm the trap. What happens if you unsuccessfully do not disarm? What's going to happen to you afterwards? Here's one of them. Rolling down the stairs. The staircase becomes a hot mess when thousands of ball bearings are released. That, I mean, it'll just go into extremely descriptive content. Now, if you're a solitaire player, this is going to add more value to your game. You're not going to be, left to, oh, it's a pit trap. 1d6 worth of damage for every 6 feet fallen. Right? Now you're going into, hey, characters going down the stairway. One of them doesn't notice the tripwire. Now there's thousands of steel ball bearings rolling down this cavernous stairway. And as your characters look over the edge, they just see darkness that goes off into God knows where. Yeah. Combine that with a game like Cypher.
Actually, okay, Cadlin has a question. When doing dungeons, which systems would you two recommend? Well, Cadlin, first of all, you can call me. You got my number. But the question I have for you, for the purposes of this video, are you talking about, keeping track of every 5-foot corridor and left turn, right turn size of room? Or are you just talking about the narrative side? Because for the narrative side, I use Iron Sworn, but that's me. Rob, how do you do your dungeons?
There's a couple of different ways that I'm going to do the dungeons. So it all depends on the dungeon that I want to play in and how it works into the story, right? Is the story focused around a dungeon? Okay, so if that's the case, this is the book I'm going to go to and I'm going to use. This is the Classic Dungeon Design Guide. This is a huge multitude of information. It's going to get into why was the dungeon originally created? What happened when it was abandoned? What has it become today? What are the dangers that inhibit it? So it's going to take a lot of different ideas that maybe necessarily, even as a solitaire player, you wouldn't think about for your dungeon. Now, if this is a one-off, or like when I was doing my Cypher game, I wanted to sit down and just do a solo playthrough, and I really didn't have anything really thought out. That's why I got these guys right here. They're just randomized dungeon dice with just various different hallways and ideas, and you just roll them, put the dungeon tile out, see what happens. Get a book of randomized tables of dungeon tables, and just start to occupy it.
Yep.
There's another way that I do it. If I'm playing in a campaign setting, the work's already done for me, then at that point, there you have it. So that, I mean, when it comes to generating dungeons, and it comes to our hobby as far as that, I mean, there's
really tons of ways. That's like the first thing anyone ever creates is how to make a dungeon, because normally that's how most people start playing D&D or any other role-playing game is, let's do a dungeon. That's where we all learned. Looks like you sold Bruno on the book. Yeah, Rob, you already sold me on the book for dungeon tables. It's not expensive. Do not detain yourself from making a video on that.
If you like that book, he also has other randomized table guides out that I use quite a bit. Here is one called the Random Fantasy Tables. If you liked what you heard and what you've seen in the dungeon book, this just goes, will take your games to a completely different level as well. I just opened it up. I'll read this heading real quick for you so you can hear it. A bent copy key. Bent copy. Sorry, let me start over. A bent copper key. This key is bent and slightly tarnished. It will unlock a chest in a merchant shop of a neighboring town. Inside the chest is a dozen iron caltrops bound in iron chain. At night, the chest will vanish and reappear in this room. So it gives you a lot of excellent ideas. They'll give you, and they're not to the point where they are so overly exaggerated that maybe it doesn't conform with your current games.
All right. Colin asks, are there people in the Cypher community making supplements, etc., for play, or is it mostly straight at home group play? I can tell you that Monty Cook Games is making all kinds of supplement material. Here's the basic fantasy book. There is another one. For this one, you can pretend to be a fallen god or someone who just got the first spark of divinity. This apparently was very popular in D&D, so he made one specifically for the Cypher system. So if you want to play in the city of Tolus, there's a monster book there. And this book right here can make a bulletproof shield, okay? Let's see, I'm looking at my list of genres out of the books. He has a science fiction setting. I forget what it's called. He's got a horror setting. He's got a superhero setting. That's Claim the Sky. And that also has a few extra powers in there specifically designed for a superheroes game. But you can also take that and convert it to a fantasy or future or anything. Like I said, anything in any book can be converted into any other genre anyway. He's got a fairy tale one. Raw Mad Here, I think is the name of that one. I don't know if he's come up with a historical one, but just go to montycookgames.com and look. He's got plenty of material for the Cypher system. Plus, they have a Kickstarter that I think is going on right now for 2 other setting books, and you can get, of course, the original book and any other the other books out in whatever tier of the Kickstarter. I don't need to participate because I got what I want, so I don't need to worry about it. But if that's something you want to look, go to his webpage, Monty Cook Games. I'm sure there's a link for his Kickstarter.
Kickstarter, Kickstarter, Kickstarter. That's all I hear anymore is Kickstarter.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Yeah. I'm just very reluctant of it. That's all. I'm just.
Yeah. Well, Monty Cook games, I already know. Okay, I may have to pay a few extra bucks more. I'm not gonna get the Kickstarter discount, but everything he's put on Kickstarter, you can buy on his website later on anyway. So I'll just get, if there's any of those books seem interesting at the time, I'll get them then. I don't need to worry about it now. Like I said, I got the books as far as I want, and I already know that, like, okay, if I want to try a space game, I just stick with this until I say, oh, I really want another setting, then I'll get that setting book. But for now, I'm happy with what I got, so I'm not worried about the Kickstarter itself.
All right, so let me see what we have here. We have a question from Greg C. There are a lot of old D&D modules I'd like to play solo with the right system. Well, there's a lot of systems out there, Greg. One of them, Cypher, which we've been talking about tonight, is a great system. If you want to stay true to the old school D&D feel, check out Swords and Wizardry. It goes from a ascending AC armor class that you'll see in all your modules. That's easily, easily converted into a D20 system if you prefer a D20 system. So there's a lot of them out there, and I'll tell you what, in this day and age and what we live in, if you can't find an RPG system to play at solitaire, I would be astounded. I'll just put it to you that way. Bruno Lampera, other systems. Bruno Lampera, too many dices.
Well, actually, if you go back to 712, Bruno also asked us, for the Cypher system, can we get a very short description of how the mechanics work? Well, we kind of already discussed that. I don't know if you were here or not, but essentially, whenever you go to perform a task, you generate how difficult it is between 0 and 10. And whatever number you come up with, you multiply that number by 3, and that's what you got to roll on a D20. Now, if you're smart, you're going, well, 7 times 3 is 21, and 8 times 3, how do you roll higher than a 20? Well, there are ways to mitigate it via, if you have, a good piece of equipment that'll help you, that'll drop the DC by 1 point. If you're skilled, that drops another point. If you're specialized, it drops it an additional point. And then whatever new number you come up with, multiply that by 3, and that's what you got to roll. Plus, your character has ways of applying effort, which you might want to go back and watch us discuss effort. Or, like I told everybody else, go to YouTube, type in Cypher system, and look for the Dungeon Noobs video. Best video on YouTube on how to play Cypher. Me and Rob could sit here and talk for 2, 3, 4 hours about it, but that guy did such a great job.
He broke it down very clean, concisely, straight to the point, and yeah, I told Don I was on the fence because I'm being very careful about RPG systems now as to what I actually bring in. The market's just been flooded with so much, and like me and you have discussed, they're just reprintings of basically the D20 system over and over again. So he had said, here, go watch this video and see what you think. And after watching it, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I was like, yeah, now that's an RPG I would like to check out. I'm glad I did too. I really am.
Well, Rob, you're like me. We've been around the block enough that we've seen enough of the RPG systems that, yeah, like I said, how many different variations of D&D do we need out there? How many retro clones are there? And a lot of times they'll say, hey, here's a brand new game. But when you look at it, it's just they took D&D and changed a few things. And it's like, you really didn't make a new game, dude. Cypher's a new game. That qualifies as a new game. Okay. So if I find something that's good, I'll say, hey, Rob, here's something you might want to look at. Because me and Rob are at that stage, you got to have something unique about your game. Because if you don't have anything unique about your game, 9 times out of 10, whatever your game you're talking about, we've got a similar one somewhere in our collection. May not be the exact same game, but you're like, oh, well, you just described such and such game to me, except for a few minor changes. I don't need to go spend all that money for a game that I essentially already got that only has a few minor changes. once I watch somebody else's video on it, oh, that's all the minor changes. I can make the minor changes and not even have to buy the new book. Just write a little note. Okay, here are the minor changes. I got that game. Boom.
Yep, it's a very good point. Okay, so we got a lot of people saying, Don, you need to adjust the volume on your mic. It's a bit choppy and you're breaking in and out.
Oh, I don't know what else to do. Of course, I don't. We're broke people. We normal people. We're just using regular old cheapo equipment. So I mean, I'm sorry. We don't have a Kickstarter. We don't have Patreon. We're not. Me and Rob, we do this for fun. This is like this is like a secondary hobby to our hobby to help you guys out. So I'm sorry, my audio's choppy. I mean, I'm hearing Rob fine.
I'm hearing you fine. So
okay. So I don't know.
In the stream too itself, it could just be there's a lot of people on the net. Okay, so Kevin Peter says, what do you guys think of Mythic Game Master Emulator 2nd edition? Okay, so that's not a very fair question for me, because I can tell you Don has done a review video on it on his channel, and it's worth going over there, clicking on it and watching the video, because he goes all the way through it. I watched the video. It's great. And, I suggest go there and see what you think. With me, I'm going to wait till I get my Dead Tree in the mail.
Yeah, she hasn't got the Dead Tree version. The only thing that's out right now is the PDF. So, but as soon as I see the Dead Tree version, if Rob hasn't, said anything, I'll send a link to Rob and say, hey, Rob, Dead Tree version is available, and he can get it whenever he wants.
Okay, so Greg C. Tunnels and Trolls had a great vibe. Not a fan of the combat, though. Yeah, Tunnels and Trolls is definitely a dated game of its time. RPGs have just progressed far on since then. For a lot of people, it's a classic that they still love and cherish today, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can agree. I'm just not I would prefer to play Cypher. I would prefer to play Castles and Crusades. I would prefer to play the One Ring. I would prefer to play more Borg. There are so many other RPG systems out there that I would prefer to play, just because it would keep me in my gaming taste in the way that I like the gaming mechanics far more interested than Tunnels and Trolls. But for its time, Tunnels and Trolls was a monumental game in its time.
All right. We have to go back a little bit. We skipped Bruno's question here. Donald, I don't want to change the course of the video, but just remember the game that you and Rob love, Forbidden Lands. Now, I've played, have everything, but has Donald did start playing with? Well, okay, it was like autocorrect changed everything. I don't know what you're trying to ask, but yes, I do have Forbidden Lands. And for some people, that is a great game. I kind of like it. I like it, pretty fairly well. It's also one of those games that not built for solo, but can easily be adapted to solo. But for me, Forbidden Lands, the mechanics I'm kind of iffy on, but I do love those random charts. Those random charts are awesome. So yeah, I sometimes will default to those random charts. But as far as the actual game mechanics, I mean, they're great. They're something new. You don't see that in too many other games. But for me personally, if I had a choice, if you had Forbidden Lands, Cypher, or something else in front of me, Forbidden Lands would move further down the chart, and I'd be more, like I said, I'd be more inclined to play Cypher or Iron Sworn or something like that. But that's just me.
Okay, I'm going to get this out there. I love Forbidden Lands. This is one of them I picked up, the Bitter Reach. And the thing I like about this RPG that it emphasizes on, that a lot of RPGs don't. First thing is fires, keeping your characters warm so they don't freeze to death. Second thing is rations and water, because if you don't eat and you don't keep hydrated, you die.
That's another thing I use Forbidden Lands. Even though I don't use the actual mechanics, the thought process behind the mechanic can be easily adapted to another game. Because I did, a lot of times I was doing the whole, I need a way to keep track of water and food and all that good stuff. And, since Forbidden Lands, I think it breaks the day down into 4 different cycles. I was doing the 4 different cycle thing. For me, even though I wasn't playing Forbidden Lands, I was like, this game did not come with a a hex crawl rules. So I took the Forbidden Lands rules and converted them over to that system, and it worked just fine for most systems. It may not work for every system, but it does work for most.
Okay, so what else do we have here in the way of questions? We got Kevin Peter at Colin Anderson. That's awesome. I'm a huge fan of Dungeon Crawl Classics 2. Rock on. Bruno Lampira. That was my point. The mechanics of the year, zero engine, too many dices.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people don't like the dice pool system, and I can see why. But I mean, there's other people, the more dice you roll, the happier they are. So that's like one of those things, like we've always said, doesn't matter what game me and Rob are talking about. If that's your jam, play it. I mean, like I said, I like Forbidden Lands. I did a couple of videos on it. It's for someone who wants to learn a relatively easy game that's easily to adapt to solo, even though it's not solo, go for it. And then, like I said, in the end, those charts in the book are excellent as well.
Well, absolutely. They're a wealth, especially just when you get to the villages and the cities and the towns, the way that it essentially builds, populates, and fills it very quickly. And it'll keep you busy for a long time.
Yep.
Craig C., what is your favorite solo adventure?
The one I make?
Yeah, I was going to say, I like to make a lot of my own storylines and my own solitaire. But if I'm going to play in a free public, I would have to say second edition, D&D, and first edition. Should I get that out there? I'm going to make that quite clear. Ravenloft campaign settings, Elemental Evil, Temple of Elemental Evil. Those two are my favorites if I'm going to play in a pre-published setting. Hope that answers your question, Greg.
And in addition to what he said, if you're a hex crawler, the first and best back in the day was Keep on the Borderlands, for if you want to do a hex crawl.
Okay.
Actually, you could have hex crawl and dungeon crawl because you got those caves.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm trying to listen to you, and I was reading the comments coming in. My brain's going process.
I got you.
Okay, so we got from Camp Cybrim 1. Do you guys use either 5 parsecs or 5 leagues from the Borderlands? 5 parsecs from home, I actually do own. I started to read that. Currently, the business that I am in, we got extremely busy, and I really did not have time. I was coming home and pretty much collapsing after work. So I do have it. I have yet to get into it. Let me just put it to you that way.
And as for me, I don't own either, but I've been thinking about 5 leagues from the Borderlands, not because of the mechanics, but because it's got the in-between after you go on an adventure, all those little in-between things. I was thinking about converting that into whatever RPG I'm playing, whether it's Cypher or something else, and use that as a guideline. But I have yet to pull the trigger on it, but I have watched quite a few videos on it. And yes, I mean, it looks like as a game in and of itself, it is very good. And I got to play 5 leagues from the Borderlands, either first or second edition, pre-COVID days with a friend of mine before he had to move. And yeah, that was pretty fun with another person sitting across table, but I don't own it to play solo.
So we have Solifera RPG. Hello, Don and Rob. Hello, Solifera, and welcome on in. Colin Anderson. I saw G.I. Joe, the RPG, at the local game store and can't get it out of my mind. Ha 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 ha. The book was weighty and looked high quality. Definitely sparked my interest. Okay.
Oh, Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything about the game. I mean, I know G.I. Joe. I grew up on the cartoons, but I don't know what the mechanics or anything are. So, but I mean, I've seen, YouTube thumbnails of the G.I. Joe RPG, but there's not a whole lot out there to go on.
I would imagine it's probably made up most recent movies that they have made. Probably not from what me and you remember of it.
Probably.
Tunes when we were a kid. when Hasbro used to have the cartoon propaganda to sell the toys to the kids.
Yep. And then Cybern 1 types, exactly, Don. I guess you're referring to my answer for the 5 leagues. Okay.
I have this one right here. 5 parsecs from home. I started to get into it. I started to make a character, and then everything just kind of, as they like to say, went to poo-poo very quick.
G.I. Joe is D&D meets Savage Worlds based on the newer comics. So there you go.
Okay. It's
I mean, okay, we already had our discussion about Savage Worlds, so I mean, no point going any further.
I'm just thinking, G.I. Joe was always, when I was younger and the cartoons were out, I thought it was cool. But then, I don't know. It's I never thought about it in terms of a RPG game.
I mean, nowadays everything's being turned into an RPG, or it can be turned into an RPG.
Okay, so we got Bruno Lampira. I am going through Ravenloft First Edition and got inside Strahd's castle. Okay. Found his treasure room, and my solo game came to a halt. Hold on here. Another comment came in and knocked this one up. Let me get back to it.
Because I'm still figuring out a way to steal that vampire.
Figure out a way to steal that vampire. So you haven't met up with Strahd yet?
Okay, I don't know what level, what RPG you're using, or what the case may be, but go ahead and rip your character sheet up. Strahd's going to get you.
I think he's referring to I6 Castle Ravenloft from first AD&D. If we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin Peter, any thoughts on Modius Games 2D20 system for solo, especially Star Trek adventures? Oh, I wish he was here, but he is currently out on a road trip. A mutual friend of ours is a sci-fi fanatic. Loves Star Trek, and I don't think he's got into Mobius, but I guarantee you, if we were able to nudge him that way, he could probably give you a very good detailed breakdown analysis of it all. I can say I have not. I have the main core rule books for Conan and Dune. Those are on my to get to RPG bookshelf that I plan on getting to in the next couple of months. Let me see here. Any thoughts? No, we already did that one. Richard DeMartino. Sorry to slaughter your name there. When you solo on your own, do you talk to yourself out loud or just talk out the encounter in your head?
For me, it's just in my head. I mean, the only reason I would talk out loud is if I was doing a video on it, but I haven't shot a video of my solo play because, one, there's enough out there, and two, in reality, I'm going to show you how I solo play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I'm just sitting here looking at my notes, writing down, rolling my die. Yeah, I'm thinking about it in my head. I'm not doing any strange voices. I'm not Trevor DeVal. I'm just sitting there. Oh, trap. Oh, I need to do a perception check. Oh, I failed. Oh man, my character's going to get hit by this trap. Oh man, got to roll damage. Okay. He licks his wounds, curses at himself, moves on. Not like I'm sitting there doing the whole.
Right. No. For me, it's more or less like watching a story unfold. And as the game flow changes, significant points may hit that are noteworthy to write down for future reference. I'll pen those in. Do I write down every single encounter, every single step, No. I mean, if you think about it, if you're playing in a large game group, do you do the same? No, nobody does. Normally your GM just remembers, the cliff notes of the last session, and then you have a refresher on your next one. Let's be real, Donald. You can do voice. LOL.
Yeah, he knows. Like I said, he sat around my table before. He knows.
John T. Thank you for commenting, John T, and welcome. And this says, thank you for your channels ordered from America, the Game Master's Apprentice Mythic Game Master emulator cards. Although in the UK, the cost and tax and shipping was painful, they are great. All right. Well, thanks for joining us across the pond, John.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the tax and shipping are not, too far off from us here either. We get hit by the same thing, especially now. When you look at, I used to be, still am, an Amazon Prime member, and I used to get, quote, free shipping. And now when I go to order something that's RPG related, typically takes 2 to 3 days to get here, and Lord behold, there's a shipping charge on it. So I feel your pain, John.
And I can also say, though, for Game Master's Apprentice, that's the reason why I actually have a channel. Because, like most people, I was used to sitting around the table with real people, rolling real dice. And it was playing some obscure RPG no one's ever heard of. I was looking for something rules light. And it was with the Game Master's Apprentice, I had my eureka moment. And if you look on my channel, that was the very first video I did. That's what started my channel, was those cards.
I have, you know what? I've come a long way since I started solo RPGing. Mutual friend of ours, Don, kept hounding me about the solo system, and I should look into it. And then now that I have picked that up, and I sit down to play a game, I'm like, why have I never used this until now? This is just such an amazing thing. It has made my life so much easier.
Well, I saw you using them in your video, and now they're on my to-get list. I'm a card freak, so okay, if it's halfway decent set of cards, I mean, there's 6 set of cards right now sitting on my game table just for easy reference, just if in case I need them.
Eventually, I'm going to get into it where I'm going to break out Memoir 44 and set that up and do a video and show you using the cards, how they can also be used for war games too, as well. So they're very, very well, how do I put this, broad-banded, if you want to look at it that way, for all your solitaire gaming needs.
I have an idea. Hold on a second.
Okay. All right, folks, we are holding on. He has an idea as we wait in anticipating, the wait, and he's back.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to sound like a Monty Cook Games salesman, but since we are talking about the Cypher system, I'm going to show you something. They also sell these cards. Now, the first set is called the Subtle Cypher deck.
Oh, fuck.
Hold on. Okay. The reason why the Cypher system is called the Cypher system is there's these things called ciphers. Ciphers are basically the one-time use items. If you're talking fantasy, it's your potions and your scrolls, whatever. But sometimes you just want to create something different. A subtle cipher in that game is something that's not physical. It's like a godly blessing or a piece of inspiration or something like that. These cards actually help me when I solo play, because every once in a while I'll be like, it's time for me to have a cipher. I should get a cipher, but I can't, nothing's coming to mind. Well, I think there's like 100 cards in here. So I just give them a quick shuffle. My first cipher, oh, look, it's a skill boost. It tells me what level, gives me the effect. And then I'll look, even on the bottom, there's a whole list of skills that I could possibly get that skill boost in. So now I have something helping me generate a story. Another random one is analeptic. Tells you level. Restores a number of points equal to the cipher's level to the to the user's speed pool. There, okay, I come up with, okay, I found a potion of, I guess we'll just call this a potion of dexterity. So that helps me generate items, generate ideas. Rob's looking at his pocketbook right now, going, oh, he's already lose some more money.
I'm sure my wife's in the next room listening to this, and she's sharpening the blade on the guillotine as we speak.
Okay, so if I try to contact you and you don't respond, just take the drive up to where you're at and attend your funeral. All right, gotcha. All right, well, now there's also those little things called assets. Remember what we said? An asset can be anything that, you know, makes the situation more in your favor. Like in the video that describes it uses the Star Wars reference. He has the high ground. That is an asset. Well, I think maybe my character, you know, you can spend XP to give yourself a temporary asset. Again, a deck of cards, give a quick shuffle.
Hold on a sec, man. I'm looking to see how much I could get if I donate some plasma and blood.
Okay, just the right word. You know precisely what to say to the person you are talking to. The difficulty of any interaction task is decreased by 1 step. Hey, okay, that's a cool asset. Another random one. Really good guess. You don't know the answer, but you can make a decent hypothesis. The difficulty of any lore or knowledge task is decreased by 1 step. Again, helpful information when you're sitting there playing solo and, you know, you're banging on your head trying to think of something. And one more. As Rob's wife is sharpening the knife. You know, we got the Mythic and we got the Adventure Crafter and we got all these little things to different ways to create random events that happen. Well, they got a GM intrusion deck. Random shuffle here. So I roll that nat 1. A random event of some type is going to happen. I could pull out my Mythic and go through all that, or I can pull out the Adventure Crafter and all that's fine. But, you know, sometimes I could just be a little lazy and just grab the first card off the stack here. And look, I have a GMI for combat. I have a GMI for interaction. And I have a GMI for something miscellaneous on all the cards. So in this case, the character's weapon or other important item they are using in combat is damage and moves 2 steps down the object damage track. So, I just screwed up my sword or my shield. Interaction. The NPC feels that the character is taking advantage of them somehow. After this conversation is concluded, the NPC refuses to interact with the character. Miscellaneous. The character thinks of an insult or rebuttal that would have been perfect for an earlier conversation and is distracted by this revelation for 1 round. There's you a random event right there. And they got it. They got a combat, an interaction, and a miscellaneous on all the cards. So with these 3 decks of cards that they literally combine with the ease of the Cypher system, I don't really need anything else. I mean, it's cool that I have the Mythic and the Adventure Crafter just in case. But yeah, these cards are a great asset.
Well, did you see that they have recently added? There's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total decks that they offer for the Cypher system.
Oh yeah, I saw all those other decks, and every once in a while I eyeball them.
The GM Intrusion deck, the NPC deck, the Plotus NPC deck, the Cypher System XP deck, the Stranger XP deck, the Subtle Cypher deck, the Cypher System Creature deck, Stranger deck, the Strange Cypher deck, the Strange Creature deck. Okay, so I'm looking at 2 different game systems here, Strange and Cypher.
No, the Strange and Numenera were the original games, but then he stripped the setting material out, and that's how he created the Cypher system. So once you get, like I said, once you have the books that you got, and since, like I said, you're a fantasy freak, so get this one in your set. You have all you need. The rest is just, you know, bonus. But
see, this is me down. I'm on Monty Cook game site. Oh gosh. Okay.
All right, Rob. Well, it was nice knowing you. Just as soon as tell her to hold off before stabbing you. I don't want to drive up there in the middle of wintertime when it's freezing cold to attend your funeral. And I'm sorry. Which wife's name? Oh, I'm sorry, Rob's wife. I didn't mean to get him killed by showing him 3 little decks of cards.
So we have some comments here. So we got O'Neill Flynn. Evening, everyone. Evening, O'Neill. Welcome to the show. Catalin, quick Rob, run. Catalin, see, I told you, Rob, you need to run. And then Slayer's Realm. Love the Cypher system. Welcome, Slayers and Realm, and so do we, because that's what we're talking about, the Cypher system tonight.
Oh, wait, I forgot one other thing. On the Cypher cards, if it's called, I don't know if it'll show up, but on this side, when the PCs move to a new location, when the PC falls unconscious or dies, when there is an unexpected noise outside, these are all the triggers. You can use those as triggers for the GMI intrusions that would grant your character XP. So use the natural roll of 1 as your random event that you can't avoid. But when this situation pops up, that's when you can also either pull a GMI intrusion, or that's the cue for, getting up. You found the Cypher. However you want to work it. I mean, it's your game, but they put it right there on this side of the card. So first thing, when the PC, let's pick another one. When the PC moves down a step on the damage track, boom, that's when you trigger, a random Cypher, whether it's the subtle one, or he actually, this is the time he trips and happens to find that potion of healing or whatever, that works out great too. I forgot all about that on that side.
That is very, very cool. I'm going to definitely look into that book and see what that's all about. Oh, man. I can tell you, Monty Cook, the guy, in my opinion, when it comes to tabletop RPGs, is just ahead of his time. Kind of, he's,
Well, I mean, he's been around the business for a long time.
Yeah. And I mean, we see it. If you look at some of the more, I'm going to say, slimmed down, cheaper RPG systems out there, and if you look at them and just as I explained, here's your basic rule set, here's basic character creation, basic encounters, basic ideas. Now have a nice life. Where you look at this, yeah, the books are a little bit more pricey, but if you look at what you're actually getting, you're getting this.
You are getting, first of all, it's a pretty solidly built book, but here's something we haven't told you about, that whoever formatted this book just for this one little thing alone, I don't know if it's going to show up well on camera, makes it worth the purchase. These are, I don't know if it's going to show up, but these are various abilities that you can see in the text. But if you look, kind of faded, there is a number. Did that show up on screen, Rob?
Well, it's very small on my end.
Okay, well, okay. I don't know if y'all can see, but there is a number there. That number is the actual page number. You don't have to flip through the book. It tells you right there, if I need to find, let me go back to that list of stuff.
I did love that, especially with character creation. That makes it so nice when you're looking at your abilities and you have to choose your abilities. It gives you the page number, go direct to it so you can read actually.
Yeah, okay. Drives like a maniac. The first tier power is driver. And in faded numbers, you can see 132. I immediately know, turn straight to 132 and boom, there's that description. Don't have to keep flipping through the book. Like that alone is worth it. Plus, it's got a very good index. Very good. It's got a character sheet. Whoever put this book together knew what they were doing. This isn't like a throw together book. Plus, it's held up pretty well. I don't know if you can see the.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a classic textbook.
Yeah.
Stitching. That's going to last for a long time. So Slayer's Realm says, Did Monte Cook recently release the Cypher system so that it could be made for virtual tabletop like Fantasy Grounds, etc.? Heard anything about this? Well, here's the thing, and he's got another question after this one. So if you have a publishing studio and you are producing RPG content and putting it out there, and you know there's this whole entire other market, the virtual tabletop, you're going to want that chunk of the pie as well. And you're going to try to reach out there to get customers on that end too. So would it surprise me to hear that maybe the game was redesigned and developed to be easily used on a virtual tabletop? No, absolutely not. In the day and age that we live in, you figure just 10 years ago, if I was to tell you you could have a chat with an AI bot on the internet, you would look at me like I got lobsters coming out of my ears. But today you can jump right over there and do it and have a conversation. So as things change, companies will have to adapt to accommodate those.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think there is something there. I don't want to say for sure, but I think on that current Kickstarter that he's got going on, I think there might be something VTT related, but don't quote me on that. I guess I'll have to find the Kickstarter and check it out. But so I can't give you an answer. But yeah, it's he'll catch on sooner or later with everything.
Sure. Get up and stretch for a minute. Okay, Slayer's Realm says, I have Cypher version 1, and is it worth getting the second version?
If you already got the first version, you got everything you need. I mean, it's like slightly better formatted and maybe 3 or 4 additional abilities that are not in that book. But unless you are one of those completionists that got to have everything, you've got all you need with version 1. Version 2 has just got a prettier cover and, like I said, a couple more extra abilities, but not a whole lot. And unless you got the $60 or $70 burning in your pocket, you don't need to. I mean, if you have a particular setting type you want to play in, you'll probably be better off using that money to buy said setting than buying version 2.
Okay, so here we got a real interesting one I'm going to throw in there. And Slayer's Realm did say beautiful books is what I meant. Okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. They are high quality books. Keldon says, I remember Monte Cook as being the guy that figured out how to change armor class to ascending TSR. Never figured that out. Yes, absolutely. You're right. Honestly, if you look at it, I don't want this video content to go to that direction, but if you look at tabletop RPGs before the D20 system and what was actually out there and the popularity of it, it was mainly an underground thing. It was a word-to-mouth thing, and very few people would you actually run into unless you drop subtle hints like, oh, hey, you see that palette of stuff over there? I guarantee you that's a +2. And if the person played RPGs, they would catch on to that and they would know it. If they didn't, they'd be like, what do you mean? And you would know, okay, you don't know. Whereas after the D20 system, we've seen an explosion. People from everywhere started to come into RPGs. So, yeah, he was a huge, huge proponent to the success of RPGs and just the overall quality and content. And I have to say, reading his stuff really helps spark your imagination. It's presented to you with the thought of gaming first and not so much as sell books to you and other things.
That kind of triggers something in my head. Another reason why the Cypher system is, so well designed, Monte Cook worked on 3rd edition D&D. Monte Cook was the lead designer for 5th edition. However, once he did whatever he had to do, it had to go through some executive who's probably never played an RPG had to sign, seal, and approve it. Otherwise, he sent it back and no, this ain't going to sell. Change this, change that. And like I said, it had to go through that corporate mess. Monty Cook Games. It's his website. He has the final decision. He made the game that he wanted to play. This is the game he wants to play. This is the game he wanted to make. That's why, this is like his love. So if you've got somebody who's got that much RPG experience underneath their belt, and he's saying, this is what I'm putting out for my company, it's got to be good. He's not going to put out some junk.
So Cybrim1 says, I have a copy of Traveler, the New Era, and they called their system the D20 system in the early 90s. Huh. That's something that you
I
learn.
thought Traveler was a 2D6 system.
It is a 2D6 system.
That's what I thought.
And I believe they're getting ready to update their system again, and they're coming out with a whole new edition here soon. But I have that one right here. Yeah. And it's all 2D6.
Yeah, it's all 2D6. That's what I thought.
In that system. But who knows? They may have decided to do a change up back then. Maybe they just went back to the 2D6 system.
Oh, I've never seen Traveler in 2D6, or on D20. But yeah, of course, at the time, 90s, that was the only thing that was out. So at least, here in the United States, that was the big thing.
Yes, but the New Era was a relaunch.
Okay. I never played Traveler, so I don't know. I don't know the history of that one, but every time I see Traveler, it's 2D6.
I was recently introduced to it. It's a very cool RPG system for a very far advanced, let's go into, let's say 3024, and you want to play an RPG and, the very far distant future. You can do it with that. But you can also do it with Cypher as well. Cypher is going to give you that too. For me, my sci-fi RPG, what I like is kind of the more dystopian. One of the sets that I picked up, and I doubt you can even find this anymore, if it's even in print anymore. And for a while, the D20 system put out D20 Mecha. And then they followed that up with the D20 Mecha Compendium, which was interesting because now they opened up all these ideas of distant planets with varying degrees of technology like you see in Traveler. The thing that's cool about Traveler, though, I will say, is the solar system, planetary building systems. That chart is just absolutely amazing. I can spend hours with that, sitting down, building planets, and when you get done, you think, my God, what can I do with this? I could literally make an RPG campaign setting here to last me for the rest of my life if I wanted to.
I'll take your word for it. Like I said, I've seen the books, and I have the PDF for the Sword of Cepheus, which is the sci-fi version, but although I was thinking I like the 2D6 system, I like something with a bell curve, it just, for whatever reason, didn't ring with me, but it may have just been me.
No, I hear you. It's so when it comes to sci-fi games, for me, it's a cool RPG. I'm not gonna deny that whatsoever. It is amazing, the scope of it and everything, but I'm more of a tactical mech. I want to go in there and blow stuff up. You know what I mean? So I tend to lean more towards battle tech in that, those regards. So what do we have here? So we got a couple more comments. So Cybrim1 says it was widely ignored by Traveler fans. Well, yeah, you're going to find that. Let's look at D&D for Christ's sake. Look at all the different editions and the different followings that they have. And if you've ever been part of any Facebook groups of one particular edition or the other, I was in the second edition AD&D Facebook group for a while before I even started my channel. And it astounded me how people would come in and they'd be like, hey, I really like D&D, I'm playing third, or I just picked up the fourth main core rule book and I'm interested in the older editions. Now, you'd normally think, what would people do and be like, oh, hey, cool, come on in, let's have a talk and let's explain to you why we like the older editions better than maybe the newer ones. No, it wasn't that way. It pretty much turned out to be, I'm going to find out where you live, you piece of shit, and burn your house down. And it's like, what are you thinking, man? What are you thinking? So I had left that Facebook group and said, you know what, guys, I'm sorry. I can't get on board with this. This is just a little bit for me. Okay, so, and then we have Melowinus Crayano Ulform from York. I hope I'm pronouncing your name. That is a huge mouthful. I only have the core rule book Traveler, the New Era from GDW. Smiley. All right, man. Piece of history there. Ron Gephardt. I have Traveler D20 produced by QuickLink Interactive. It was released in 2002. I don't think they published any supplements for it.
Okay, like I said, I know nothing about the Traveler history, so.
Keldon says nerd rage is real.
Yeah, the addition wars.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to, and I've said this before, you really have to sit back and look at what we are doing here, right? We are enjoying a game of fantasy make-believe. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not talking about changing laws that can particularly be devastating to the majority of the world population. I mean,
I know. I mean, come on, people. Just the fact that they're into our hobby, you should be welcoming them. Because, okay, I mean, just because I don't like 4th edition doesn't mean, okay, go ahead and take me out back and shoot me because you're a 3rd edition lover or whatever. No, you're not.
So it says here, I'm going to let you answer this one, Don, because you've been into the Cypher system a lot longer.
Oh, what Cypher system would you recommend for a BattleTech fan? Well, I'm not a BattleTech fan. I don't know.
While you think of an answer, I'm going to get up and stretch my leg again here. It's starting to cramp up on me.
All right, I'm going to visit the Monty Cook Games website. And I'm going to just look at the Cypher system supplements and tell you. I don't know a whole lot about all of them. I know a little about some because I've watched some videos on the subject, but I don't think there's a BattleTech version yet. Don't quote me on that. All right. They got the Strange, which is sort of like a sci-fi one. They've got the Tola supplement. That's just a fantasy city. They got We Are All Mad Here. That is fairy tale. Stay Alive is horror. Stars Are Fire. That's space. That might. Go to YouTube, type Cypher Unlimited, and look through their list. They may have done a review of The Stars Are Fire. Stay Alive is horror. Godforsaken is fantasy. Claim the Sky is superhero. And Predation is future meets the dinosaurs. So if you're a dinosaur freak, get that one. That's the one where you travel back in time to look at dinosaurs, and then something happens and you get trapped in there, and you got like futuristic vehicles versus dinosaurs. That might have something BattleTechy to it. So go look up Predation on YouTube. And like I said, the Cypher Unlimited boys, this is their bread and butter. They talk Cypher every week. They always have something. And usually when a new book comes out, they do a full-fledged review on it. Matter of fact, they interviewed me like 5 months ago. And then they got Gods of the Fall, and that's where you play a person who just got the spark of divinity. Or you can play someone who doesn't have the spark of divinity and just chase those down who do. Go either way.
Well, here's a rare thing that I could do with Cypher. I own this. I saw this, and I picked it up because I never knew. I heard of it through Dungeon Magazine, and I still have some of the older copies that I have boxed away in here. And looking through it, I was always kind of like, huh, until I found it. And that's this one right here. If you've ever played this, Air War.
Okay.
You see who it's made by.
Yep, I see. I see.
They have an interesting concept in this game, and that is, what if you want to strap yourself into an F-15 and go out and shoot the wings off a dragon? And you know, it's an interesting concept. I could do that with Cypher.
Yep.
Even though it's a very tactical game, I went through the rule sets, and it reminded me a lot of Flight Leader, where you have to have that tactical layout for it. I think Cypher could make it a lot more streamlined and a lot more interesting. But it goes to show you how some things in the past, some ideas came up, how they've just kind of been forgotten to time. Some cool ideas that
Yep.
you don't even see anymore. So Slayer's Realm says, on the Cypher system, I think the idea of ciphers is one of the greatest single ideas in RPG. It allows almost anything to happen.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of Cypher, what me and Don were talking about. We're not salesmen for Cypher.
Right.
The only reason, I was him-hawing about Cypher. And Don sent me the video link, said, here, check this out and see what you think. I picked it up on sale. Would I pick that book up if it was at full price? Probably not. I would have probably hemmed and hawed on it. But I'm glad I did. Looking at it and being a solo RPG player, that's the thing. Me and Don are giving you the perspective of solitaire RPG players, not as large group RPG players. So we're looking at it from the mindset, what's the replayability of this? How much am I actually going to get out of this? How many times am I going to go back to this book? And if I decide not to play the rule set, I'm still going to find some really good resources in here that I could use for other game systems. So, that's something to be considered as well if you're strictly a solitaire player.
Exactly. Plus, you got other situations too. First of all, me and Rob got to find a subject to talk about, for one. Otherwise, we're just sitting here doing this. And number two, we always see the question, I want to get into solo play. What RPG system do you recommend? Or sometimes you get the whole, hey guys, I just got my 5th edition D&D book and I want to play solo. And then we're like, oh, well, 5th edition D&D, not even counting, forget the OGL mess. I'm not even taking that into consideration, but D&D is one of those games, at least for me, there was too many moving parts to keep track of, especially when you had to create a new NPC. If I'm a 5th level, dude, and I got a 5th level NPC coming up, and let's say it's a human fighter that eventually it's going to evolve into combat, let's just say. Well, now I have to worry about, okay, I got to roll his ability scores, figure out his skills. Oh, wait, now I got to get his feats. Oh, wait, he's a fighter. He gets these extra feats. Oh, wait, he's a human. He gets his bonus feat. Oh, wait, he's 5th level. He probably should have a magic sword. Now I got to go change all this to hit and damage bonuses. And I've taken myself out of the game. Cypher system, I can take any monster out of any RPG and literally in like 30 seconds in my head already have the stats. It take me longer to write the stats down than to figure out what the stats would be converted to the Cypher system. I bet you Rob can do this. Rob, what, you've been exposed to this game, 2-3 weeks maybe at best?
No, I actually did not get my copy until it was.
All right, so you've had, okay, so at best you've had the book for 2 weeks.
It was Monday. It showed up Monday, and then after work, because I get a couple hours after work, we're pulling some long hours right now. I would read a little bit here and there, and then. All
right, I'm gonna ask you an honest question. Okay, mm-hmm. You work the 50, 60 hours a week. You've only had the book 2 weeks. You've probably only had, a few hours to read it. Plus, you shot a video on it. So, could you right now, I mean, don't do it, but could you right now just grab any random RPG off your shelf, flip to a random monster, look at that monster's stats, and then immediately convert it to the Cypher system in a relatively quick time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly. Everything I just said about that 5th level fighter just got tossed out the window.
Yeah, absolutely. I could look through this right here. I'm looking at a Stone Guardian. Its attributes. Okay, its strength is a 10. Okay, its strengths are 10. So where would I rate that? Well, it'd be a pretty powerful encounter for my characters, depending on their tier. So let's say they're a second tier. Well, maybe we want to move more towards a 4 or a 5 encounter to make it a more reasonably challenging encounter for them. It's just that simple. Everything.
I came up with a real quick cheat for you. It's the easiest cheat in the world. Cypher system works on the 0 through 10, correct? Most RPGs, especially D&D related, work on the 0 level through 20th level, and basically, depending on your level, roughly determines the encounter level, correct? Look at your book, look at the hit die of that creature, cut it in half. There's your encounter right there. And then when you look at the stats, if he's a better fighter, add 1 or 2 to the difficulty. If he sucks at fighting, subtract 1 or 2 from the difficulty. Just that right there, just using that one simple guideline, any D&D monster, any monster manual, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, basic, it don't matter. You can convert it to Cypher like that.
Here's the unique thing about Cypher compared to other RPGs, and we haven't seen something like this in a while. You look at older RPG systems before the D20. Everything was subtraction. You would look at that, you would subtract. A lot of people, they found it confusing or what have you, and then they went to the D20 system to where everything is add, which is a lot easier for most people. Roll your D20, take that number, add 2 or whatever it is. Cypher, you have to remember you have to multiply by 3. Or like what Don's saying here, take it a step further, excuse me, and divide by 3.
Yeah, either way, yep. But I mean, that's how I did all my D20 monster manual creatures was whatever hit dice was, I cut it in half. There was my difficulty mod. If it was a fighter, it went up 1 point or 2 in attack ability. If it was a mage, okay, it went 1 or 2 points up higher for its magic ability. That simple. I mean, I literally had to stop and go, is it really this simple? Am I screwing something up? And then I went through the book.
It's funny you mentioned that. I had the same thing too. I had to keep going over the rule set, and I'm like, can it be this simple? And I'm like, it is. I'm like,
it is.
It's just wow. Okay. Let's get to a question here. So Wayne C says, do you use ICRPG ? The Master Edition looks good. 5 different settings. The Milestone Pass look good. Okay. I see.
ICRPG. I know which game he's talking about. I don't own it. It's I think he's talking about the index card role-playing game.
Okay.
Runehammer on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't own it, so I can't. I mean, it looks good. A lot of people rave about it, but that's not me.
RPG. I think I have not played it. From the reviews I've seen, it seems like OGL D20 Lite RPG system. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong, but I seen that, and I am a swords and wizardry nut. So when I want my OGL fix, that's where I go to, or Castles and Crusades. Wayne C says, I just got Phoenix Down, Command RPG. Tried it solo, and it's interesting as it's a card-based, no dice rolls. So each test is interesting, finding cards to make the target number. Hold on a second.
And no character sheets.
Yeah, another comment came in and it all the way to the top. That is interesting. And when you see card mechanics introduced into an RPG game where you normally see dice, it does make things interesting. It's a breath of fresh air. One of the examples I can use is Forbidden Lands, where you use a basic set of playing cards 1 through 10, and instead of rolling dice or any of that, you shuffle the cards and you pull it, and you race. I can't talk tonight. You, at that point, base your
initiative.
Thank you. Off of the number that is drawn. Okay, so Cybrim 1. I love skill trees and action RPGs like Diablo. Hate them in tabletop.
I know
Well,
what he means. Yeah.
yeah, sure, absolutely. Those type of games, you can see that. You may get a new skill where you're able to bash 3, 4 opponents on the board at one time, but then as you go up in levels and they start getting stronger and it reduces it to 2, then maybe you're lucky of 1, and you get a new skill that allows you to do even more. Yeah.
And although it wasn't skills, it was something completely different, but operates on the same form. The 3rd edition, and I guess currently the 5th edition feat system in D&D is just like that. You know, you got to have skill, your feat A to get feat B, to get feat C, to get feat D.
Okay, so Kevin Peter has a comment here. I would imagine you could easily do the same with Pathfinder's challenge rating.
I think he's talking about converting to Cypher. You are correct. Pathfinder is also a 0 through, or basically 1 through 20 game. Same. I mean, Pathfinder is basically based off D&D's OGL stuff anyway. So yeah, anything we say to D&D probably will apply to Pathfinder, Swords and Wizardry, and all the other literally bazillion retro clones that are out there.
Hey, Don, how do you pronounce that name there? That call sign.
I have Suda Budja DJ Gat. Yeah, it's somebody who didn't want to put in a real name into their YouTube account, because if you look at those letters, those are all the middle letters of a keyboard. Except
okay,
for the.
So how do you about combat? Question mark. I want to play a solo strategy tabletop RPG, but wouldn't it just be playing against myself? And know all my moves kind of takes the fun out of it. Well, let me show you something that I've been talking about with the solo system. And
I'll be right back while you answer that.
Games, this will definitely change it up for you. So the solo system breaks the deck up into 4 different parts. But the main part, if you like tabletop RPG game, will be the tactics, and I'll show you why. When you flip the tactics over, depending if you're playing on a hex or square grid, it's going to show you which way your opponent's going to move. And then, of course, in the bottom in the text, it's going to tell you who they target. So you can shuffle these up, draw them randomly, and every time it's going to change that target, their moves, and everything else. And I will tell you what, playing war games and using that, it's a very versatile enemy. I also tried it with Dungeon Saga, which I love. Dungeon Saga is a beer and pretzels type of miniature game, very closely resembled to Hero Quest, but in my opinion, better. And I had used that tactics deck with that, and I had played through a couple of scenarios, and I will tell you what, I barely made it out with the skin of my teeth. It really does put a beating on you. So if you're looking for a good challenge, that's what you're looking for, I would suggest jumping over to Board Game Geek, looking up the solo system. You can either get the PDF and print these out yourself. If you do, you're going to have to factor in cost of ink, cardstock paper, and all that. Or you can just do what I did and just buy the printed. And then when you get it, they're like a standard deck of 52 playing cards. And of course, they have the protective anti-scratch coating on them, so they'll last a long time. I hope that helps, my friend.
And if you don't want to spend any money, just go online to a miniatures game that has a solo rule set to it. Because most AIs, most people play a miniature war game / combat and RPG relatively the same anyway. Go find something with a rudimentary AI to start, because a lot of times just that AI, the way it works for that miniature game, will do the same thing anyway. Silly game called Burrows and Badgers. It's a miniature game, but I'm not into the anthropomorphic animals, but I have the book, because I was thinking about, because I like the system, changing, rabbit to elf, or, something to dwarf, and come up with the standard D&D races with that system. it had its own set of solo rules that you can get for free, where you can either aggressive, defensive, or cautious, and then I think melee, ranged, magic. You follow those little steps in that little, and it was a simple common. It's basically common sense. That too will also probably help with the AI, so you don't know the moves per se. And even if you do know the moves, halftime what you're planning, it still comes down to Dutch.
Oh man,
Wargaming. Go watch him. He does solo miniature wargaming almost 3 days a week, and he just utilize common sense at times, or follow an enemy AI from a miniature war game.
So
that'll work out just fine too.
I apologize to everybody from getting up and walking around. As I was telling Don, as I got up this morning, I was drinking my morning coffee. I leaned a little bit too far back in my chair to stretch, and the chair toppled over and my leg got caught underneath it. So it's a little sore and it keeps locking up. So I got to get up and just keep stretching my leg every now and then. So if I keep walking on the screen, it's not because I'm not interested in the topic or anything like that. It's getting antsy to stretch my legs.
Yeah, realize we've been sitting in our chairs for 2 hours, and so yeah.
So Cybrim1 says skill trees ruined, 2D20, Conan, Star Trek, etc. Just too complex. I haven't even got into those games yet, and well, I guess I will find out for myself here soon enough. So we got Sentinaut 7.8. Yeah, Sabaja. I've got interested in Mustang Chronicles, but I'm not interested in 2D20. He also comments Mutant Chronicles. Let's see if we got another question here. Ian Town. The Modius 2D20 system is great for solo. The threat and momentum system adds tension to a solo game. GM screens come with a guide with tables that work amazingly for solo gaming. That's good to know. So we got a difference of opinions there.
That's perfectly allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. What type of game system is best for tabletop RPGs? ? I was thinking of creating a card battler strategy game that focuses on dueling. I use Mithras, but that may be too complicated for solo. Thank you, Artichoke. What type of card system is best for tabletop RPGs? There is a lot of different card systems out there. Don just showed you a whole bunch of that. I just showed you the solo system that is literally designed for solo tabletop RPGs, board games, whatever you can think of. The system is already set up for you and put into place. I think it more or less boils down to what speaks to you, what piques your interest for your gaming taste. If you like more of a strategic type of RPG system, you may want to check out the tactics deck in the solo system and see what that has to offer. Because I will tell you what, it will pull some punches on you that you're not ready for, and it will challenge you too. So one thing about playing solo is we can get kind of to that point where you don't think out of the box, particularly if you're playing strategy type of board games, stuff like that. Whereas if this is going to think out of the box, this is going to do stuff that maybe you don't want it to do. Like if you're running Dungeon Saga is a good example. Running through that, I'm trying to keep my magic user protected like you would in any dungeon crawl. But then the way the card came out, all the enemies are going to move and descend upon my magic user and beat the living hell out of him, because he was the one with the lowest amount of health in the entire party.
Another suggestion I'm going to throw out there, since it says here you're thinking about creating a card battler strategy game, so I'm assuming you're focusing pretty much on combat. Story is not much of a thing. Instead of going full-fledged RPG, find you a miniature war game, because that's literally what the role-playing games are built on anyway. Dungeons & Dragons originally came from Chainmail, which was a miniature war game. and since you're not if you're not needing the ROLE portion of the game, then find you a pretty decent miniature war game that falls within what you're looking for. Since card battler strategy game can encompass a whole big area. I don't know where to start there, but
One
either
thing,
use a solo system or find a miniature war game, because miniature war game is literally just that. You're just going to convert it to a card system, I assume.
one game system I can suggest for you too as well to look into, and I'm sure you could probably pick the books up at a reasonable price secondhand at this point, would be look at 4th edition D&D. That was originally designed to be a tactical miniature war game with its own self-supported virtual tabletop to go along with it. That entire game system, even if you look at the board games that they made based off of that, the Wrath of Ashalon that I have up here, the Legend.
I got Castle Ravenloft, Wrath of Ashalon, and Legend of Dritz.
They're excellent. They're excellent systems the way they're written. So that could be a great wealth of information, particularly if you look at it. 4th edition's dead. I don't think there's a large following for it anymore, like there was once upon a time. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely.
Well, actually, I feel the same way as you do. I mean, if you were to grab all the D&D players and all the world, and pick your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, pick your favorite edition and move over here, 4th edition would be the smallest group. Most people, the younger kids, are going towards 5th edition. The older folks like us that are our age, they tend to fall 1st edition. And then 3rd edition is like that happy medium. And then 2nd and 4th kind of fall behind. They're like the bottom, is from what I've been able to tell from, going on the internet and talking to people about role-playing games. Usually 2nd edition and 4th edition get the thumbs down. 3rd edition, and then it's 5th edition and 1st edition are the thumbs up. So,
yeah, that's very good. So, Cyber 1 Mythic 2nd edition system for AI is just amazing. Thanks, Donald. Will do. Slayer's Realm. You can also roll decisions for your opponents. Let me get back up here. Did it to me again. There we go. You can also roll decisions for your opponents, who they attack, etc. So I find combat to work pretty well. You can get a lot of variations, etc. Any role playing takes a fair amount of imagination.
Yep. I've seen situations. I mean, I've seen stuff like that too. Yeah. I mean, actually, if you think about it, you go through your Dungeon Saga, those cards, there's only so many variations. You can probably, if you can write small enough, you can probably put all that on a 12 or a 20-sided die.
Yeah. I mean, but like any type of, miniature game, I mean, you're going to have your basic rules that are going to be pretty well stripped down of move and attack and move, cover, so on and so forth.
Right.
So Greg C, miniature AI for solo play, ? Not heard of AI for solo tabletop RPG. Well, let me tell you something. So a friend of mine who actually is in, I'll say the technology sector, he specializes in writing code, stuff like that. He had told me about this open AI chat GPT, I believe it is. I had checked it out, and you can actually go in there and ask it, can it DM a game session for you? And it can. You put in, give it a few ideas of the way you want it to do, and it's going to spit out an answer for you. Now, it's going to be very generic. And the reason why I say that is because it's accessing what it can find on the internet. And what is the top hit going to be on the internet as far as where it's accessing? It's going to be a D&D, because that's the most largest amount of compiled data, if you think about it. But nevertheless, if you are looking to play a solitaire RPG, maybe the concept of like the way me and Don do it might be a little strange to you at first. For a lot of people, it is. But you'll see before too long that really being a solo RPG player is just using tools at your disposal to be able to make the game flow nice and simply, and you can enjoy it, and with minimal effort. The same thing a GM would do, but without all the heavy lifting. But it sounds like maybe that's something that may work out for you.
Yep. I mean, miniature AI for solo play has been around for a while. And now, basically, now AI for solo tabletop RPGs, they got it, they got the Mythic, we got the Adventure Crafter, I'm converting these silly little decks from a different game. There's enough tools out there. You can find something.
So we got one from Your Two Cents, is his call sign. Eons ago, I played Melee by Steve Jackson Games. I haven't played solo games since then. How different is solo role-playing from then in a nutshell? Well, one thing
completely different.
Not only is it completely different, there is a larger wealth of information, products, and support and things that you can find for today than there ever has been in the tabletop industry. So if that puts it into a nutshell, there's a whole lot more now.
Yeah, I mean, Scarlet Heroes and Ironsworn, those are two RPGs straight out the box. You don't need anything else. You can play them solo. Both of them play completely different. I know Rob has Scarlet Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
I have both Scarlet Heroes and Ironsworn. They are completely different. And
here,
that's just the two games that are out of the box. We're talking about taking game systems that are not solo, and we're making them solo. And there's literally now a ton of tools. Like I said, last one of our interviews before, now we got too much. It's information overload.
Okay, so we got another question here. Sabaja. That's what I'm just going to go. That's a word salad right there. I'm going to go back and rewind to check you guys out. Thanks. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Wayne C. The plays of 5 parsecs from home make the solo experience look good with a basic AI. Okay.
Yep. I've watched a couple of playthroughs. Yeah, it does its job. Matter of fact, even though I don't own 5 parsecs or 5 leagues, I've watched enough playthroughs that even without owning the books, I have thought about doing a dungeon crawl using that same method. Just I wasn't going to buy the books. I was going to handwrite the little rules out and just follow what I saw on the videos. Because that makes perfect sense for me if I wanted to play. Especially since that game is designed on moving miniatures and doing dungeon crawls and treasure hunts and all the other good stuff.
So for those of you guys out there talking about 5 parsecs for home, if you enjoy that, there is a game system that's little bit older out there, written by this author that also did, I'm trying to remember the name of his series. Dang it, it's a miniature war game. I will think of it probably after the video stream is done. But his book is called Rangers of Shadow Deep. If you have never played this, and I've seen from some of the comments, some of you guys are looking for an RPG style type tactical miniature style, but has a story element behind it and characters. It's worth checking out, and the whole game is designed to be played solo. You can play with other people. It's a solo co-op, or you can sit down and play it solo. The way that it generates more encounters, puts them on the board and how they move in. If you do not think quickly on your feet, or you have a few bad dice rolls, you'll be overrun quickly. And it can be, just absolutely brutal. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And if you guys enjoy those type of games, that's well worth looking into. All right. So Your Two Cents. Oops meant eons. It's okay. We know what you meant.
We got you. We figured you.
Okay, Cybrim 1. If you need AI, remember Ironsworn
Lodestar is a free. Yes, we know that. We got that. Most people know that. Most people who are in the Iron Sworn, the Lodestar is free. And if you get and I believe he's updated it to include the stuff from the Delve book. So yeah, go ahead and get that.
Greg C says, what do you mean by AI? Literal computer or just a set of rules? No, I mean literal computer. There are actually chatbots now that are AI that you can put in a question, you can have a conversation with it, and it's going to give you an answer. But you can actually go in there and if you wanted to say, hey, I want to play a D&D game. This is the setting I want to look into. Here's my character. Can you think of a scenario? And it's going to spit it out. But you got to remember something. So AI will never, ever, ever compare to the imagination of humans and what our imaginations are capable of doing. So it's going to be limited to what it sources from the internet, being all the D&D and everything else. It's going to go and skim over that, and it's going to give you a very cookie cutout type of scenario to play in. But if you're looking to play solitaire, but you can't bring yourself to run the whole system yourself, and you need that little bit of a crutch of a game master, that could be a way to help you until you basically get on your feet and running.
And going back, part two, what do you mean by AI? Yes, it can also just be a set of rules. Yes, we have the computer AI that Rob just talked about, but when I talk about AI, I'm talking about, you know, the intelligence of the monster. Usually there's a set of rules that says if it's a melee monster, it moves close to you. If it's a ranged monster, it moves towards you to get in range and finds cover. If it's a mage, it stays as far away from you as possible, but still within range to shoot you with its magic missiles and such. There's usually a set of guidelines. That depends. Like he said, I think Rangers of Shadow Deep has a basic AI written in it for how the monsters move.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. So your 2 cents says double oops. Melee was part of the fantasy trip. Yes, you're absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yep, I have that, and I did a video, an unboxing of it or something a while back. Yes, I have Melee and Wizard and the fantasy trip when he created that new get together.
Okay, so your 2 cents says, I know you have been sitting a while. Subscribe to both channels. So thank you very much. And thank you for your comments. Okay, so we got another one here. Wow, this is
yeah, they're coming in now.
Cryrano Ulfram from York. At Greg C, many board games implement solo options. Stop scrolling up. Many games.
Solo options, which are handled by bots.
Thank
Rule
you.
systems that act in the board game environment towards winning as an opponent. Yeah, like we just said, yeah, follows a set of simple rules. Most of them are relatively simple. Rangers of Shadow Deep has it. Brutality has built-in rules. Go, even if you're not interested in Burrows and Badgers, go to the Burrows and Badgers Facebook page, go to their file section. They got a solo. You can use that same AI they got in there for your RPGs. It's got the aggressive, defensive, and cautious attitudes, and then there's the basically the fighter, the one that wants to get in your face, the ranged, and the magic user. So basically, you can just take those three combinations of mage, fighter, magic user, cautious, offensive, and defensive, and it's got a little AI tree that will work very well for most RPGs. It may not work for every single one, but it will work for most of them, especially the ones that are highly tactical.
Okay, so Mellowinus Crano Ulfram from York at Greg C. If one could come up with a non-digital universal bot for both tabletop RPGs, would be a gold mine, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Everyone and their brother would jump on that.
I'm sure it would be. Okay, so we got Keldon. I just finished Rob's solo play of Cypher. He likes rolling ones. He loved it. Yeah, it's just the ones seem to plague me. Okay, now we got hello. What system would you recommend as an alternative to astonishing swordsmen and sorcerers of Hyboria for over-the-top pulp fantasy. Okay, what our video first started out as, the Cypher system.
Yep, what he said.
Anything imagine that you want to do with an RPG, any way you want to do it, we'll facilitate it for you. And it's a very simple system to wrap your mind around. It's not rules heavy, and the mechanics of it are extremely simple. So
the Cypher system can play everything. There is not anything that I cannot think of anything that the Cypher system can't play. Cypher system does everything. Just Cypher system does everything. Period. Ding.
And two, like me and you were talking about, Don, and I told you we talked about this before we even started the live stream, and it was take everything from the Cypher system, the game standpoint of view. Even if you didn't like the game standpoint of view, you can't deny the fact that the actual character creation and the wealth of information that it gives you to make unique characters is just astounding. You're not going to find that in your Dungeons and Dragons book. You're not going to find that in your Pathfinder book. It may give you some sample ideas or examples, but Cypher is going to make some very interesting characters, and even if you use them for other RPGs, it's a great just resource to have.
I'm going to add something else to it. This is something I've noticed, and I guarantee you've probably noticed this too, Rob. Take any RPG out there. I'll use, even though this is the Gods of the Fall for the Cypher system. Look at that picture, and you think fantasy. You think, okay, and then it says Gods of the Fall, so you're thinking, higher level or sparks of divinity.
That fell from grace.
Yeah, exactly. But guess what? That's just the artwork. You realize, take a look at any of your RPGs that say they're specific for a specific genre.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times those RPGs can be played in other genres. All you got to do is just mentally erase the pictures, the art they give you, and substitute something else. I mean, if you think, Symbaroum, another one of those games I like. It's got that dark, gritty feel, and when you look at the book, it's full of dark, gritty artwork. But I can go play that exact same game as a Japanese RPG, because I read up on a couple of Japanese RPGs, and I'm like, they got the cutesy anime picture, and yay, it puts you in that anime frame of mind. But I'm like, I can play this in a deep, dark fantasy world where magic is dangerous. All you got to do is just remember, these are just mechanics, and then the artwork puts you in that frame of mind. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, Rob can go pull a fantasy game off his shelf, and he can turn it probably into a sci-fi game.
Oh, absolutely. Anything I think of.
But this has already done the work for you. This is already this simplifies it and puts it in black and white, and it literally tells you you can do anything you want, when you want, the way you want.
Okay, so we got a couple more here. Let's Slayer's Realm, the book, the monsters know what they're doing. Keith Aman, is a good resource to help roleplay monsters. There's also another good source out there that when Wizards of the Coast actually produced stuff that players wanted to play. And it was made in the 3rd edition, and it was called Savage Species. And they had sample characters, but it represented every single creature out of the monster manuals, and it showed how to adjust stats to make them more balanced for gameplay and as interesting characters. So there's another old gem that's still out there. I'm sure you can find it on the secondary market. That
actually, Rob, since I was, 3rd edition was my heyday. We had a DM that, we had finished a campaign, and the guy was like, you know what? I'm going to start y'all off at 6th level. None of you are allowed to play a human, elf, dwarf, halfling, nothing that's in the player's handbook. All of you play something out of the savage species book. We're going to go back and, this basically the story was the tree of life that created all life was in trouble, and our characters represented I guess, the Adam and Eve of our particular species. I got to play a troll half dragon. Awesome.
That is, what else was interesting is to using that book, and I've heard a lot of people say they played RPG games this way, and I thought about it. So when we play solo RPG, here's the beautiful thing about solo RPG. There are no rules. This is a solitaire experience. This is for you. Do what you want with it. Don't feel as if you are bound by any rules or anything else. So with that in mind, why do you always have to play the hero? Why can you not be the evil, monstrous villain in the dungeon that's trying to keep the trespassers, known as the heroes, that just have infiltrated your lair and go and kill them? There's, some food for thought there. It's an interesting, really different way to flavor your RPGs and to have fun with it.
Actually, you're just backing up what Gary Gygax said. One of those Gary Gygax quote is, "The number one rule you need to know is that you don't need rules."
Good point.
I mean, And then here I'm gonna give you another example. There's another YouTuber I follow, and just like he's around our age, and when he was young, he was introduced to D&D, and he liked it, and he was basically the group DM. Well, unfortunately, due to playing D&D all the time, and of course he had all the books at the time, his grades started failing. So his parents took his books away. You need to spend more time studying. They literally took his books away, and he didn't have his books for the longest time. Well, with no books, he still DM'd. He made everything up on the fly, straight, whatever he couldn't memorize, he just made up on the spot. He actually there's a video on it. Go look up A Year Without My D&D Books. It's on the Dungeon, I think it's Dungeon Craft, Professor Dungeon Master. He literally tells you do not need rules. That's the first rule about rules you need to know, is that you don't need rules, which is why I was telling a friend of mine that every time we have a conversation, he just likes to regurgitate rules. Like when I mentioned a zombie attacking somebody, I didn't get to finish my sentence that the zombie was hiding and got the jump. He goes, "Well, zombies move last in initiative," because according to second edition, they do. And then when I said, "Well, I rolled attack damage," "Well, zombies do D8 damage." I'm like, dude, the last thing you need to do is quote rules to me, because number one, I know you don't need rules. Number two, I've got a zillion RPGs, so I got a zillion different variations and different rules. I don't need your interpretation. I'm the DM.
Okay, so Keldon, I do like playing facing systems. That's what I use now.
Yes, basically, yeah. You're talking about the games where the DM don't roll dice. Cypher, Dungeon World, Simba Room, Ironsworn. Those are what they call. Now that's a term for it now. Player facing. Whenever the DM does not roll dice. And
I did not know the lingo.
Well, all right, you got your education today. You learned something new.
I tried Savage Worlds for a sci-fi pulp, and it was good, quick to play, but too many fights and combat dice / mechanics did not work for me. Well, and here's the thing. That's the thing about RPGs. Whether you play them in a group or solitaire, you're going to find some you love. You're going to find some you don't like. That's just the way
it's the way it is. There's always, there are I got some great systems, but there's just that one little thing that they screwed up that I don't like. But unfortunately, that's that one little thing. It's integrated enough into their rule set that I literally have to rewrite the rules just to change that one little thing. And sometimes this game would be great, but now for somebody else, that'll probably be the best thing on the planet for them. Look at initiative. How many different ways are there to do initiative alone? And that's just one tiny piece of combat.
Okay, so Keldon said, my solo game I made, the character Pythona from the animated G.I. Joe movie, using barbarians of the ruined Earth. I playing through the Call of Cthulhu campaign at your door. I'll create any nonsense. There is nothing wrong with that. All the game systems I have, the campaign system that I threw together to have some fun with, which was from the board game Ruinbound. I really liked it. And using Swords and Wizardry, just threw it together, mashed it up, and threw it out there. Some of the best solitaire games I have played by far yet is not underneath one particular rule set. It's been a mix match of just different stuff compiled together to make what's interesting for me. So actually, Keldon, you're doing it the right way. That's what solitaire RPG is all about. It's about breaking down all those barriers you would have if you were sitting at a game table. And if you've ever experienced this out of a game master, and like I said that earlier in this live stream, that Pulp Nocturne gaming group I was part of, one of the examples is you walk in just in time to see this cultist kill this lady, and then two of them run off. What do you want to do? I'm going to shoot one of them. Well, you can't. Why can't I? No explanation as to why I can't. Does the story ever go back there? No, never. The GM had a hissy fit. One guy showed up for a game night, and we had a car chase that ended with a shootout. Everybody was having a great time. He was pissed, just absolutely pissed off. It was at my point, I just was like, dude, your game group is not for me. This is just it. I'm sorry, but you're not listening to your players. You are sitting here trying to babble off your story that I don't think anybody else is that interested in. I really don't. And, you know, so.
A guy I was talking to, he was playing in a group, and he said he hated it because the DM was pretty much playing a character, everything, and it was basically watch what my character can do, and that was the whole DM session, was him showing off how great he is, and he's a walking pile of magic items, and I'm the greatest everything in the world, and their players are like, okay, can we do something? Can I do? No, because you have to watch me do it. See, because I'm the greatest. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, as far as solo RPG goes, RPG games, when it comes to that, you're going to find some you love, you're going to find some you hate, you're going to find some that are going to be, I can honestly say this. I have RPG books back here that I have read through them. I really liked the idea. There were some story concepts in there that really captivated my imagination. But as a whole, it was like, this was a cool idea. But is this something I would really be interested in sitting down and playing? Not really. But it was a cool idea. So the cool thing about us being solitaire players is you can get an RPG and you can sit there and tweak the rules and add in whatever you want and take away whatever you want to make it for yourself. And another thing I'm going to touch on, Don, just like what we were talking about, too many OSRs. I think for a lot of people, that's what they're running into right now currently, is I want to play solo RPG. Okay, so they start with this, and it's like, okay, this is okay. Then they go over to here because this box cover art promises it to be the best RPG of ever, and you will never, ever, ever tire of it, which you do. And then they get into it, and they find out it's like kind of the same old crackers. It's the same old mashup. That's where I can say games like Cypher, which it's so simple. It's so
different.
It's so vast. It's even, it's just amazing. Another one I'm going to throw out there, the One Ring. I love that one. Forbidden Lands. Absolutely love it. But this is me I'm talking about. But as far as a lot of people out there, when it comes to RPGs, before you make the jump, before you look at that flashy art cover that's drawing you in, that looks like, I really want to experience this. This is what I want. investigate it a little bit, see what people are saying about it. Do the legwork yourself, because a lot of times what you're going to find out is, just like what me and Dom were saying, you're just going to get a reprinted version of a game that's already been in circulation for over 50 years.
Yep. That's all. Whenever I see OSR, like I said, I see strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma, I'm running, because it's like, that's why I was late to the party for Scarlet Heroes and World Without Number, because I saw that and was like, yep, another OSR copycat, not interested. Oh, Cybrim 1. If you guys had an Appendix N for your favorite RPGs, which would be your most useful or favorite? Well, we probably both safely say Lord of the Rings.
I can agree with that. Yep.
Or I can just say any B-rated 80s fantasy movie.
Yeah. Some of the cool ones like Crawl. You remember that?
Yeah, one? I remember that one, because that's, we didn't have all the crazy special effects. Fantasy was, the underground. It was only the weirdos watched that, so everything was a B-rated movie.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? It's still to this day, I love going back to them.
Yep. I'll sit there and laugh at it, like, oh, I actually like this, but then I'm like, I actually still do like this.
About a couple months ago, I watched Crawl again, and I should just buy the disc. I don't even own it. And I just, every once in a while, I'll rent it off of Amazon Video. And I'm like, I should just buy the damn disc. I probably already bought
it 3 or 4 times over.
Okay, so Keldon says, heck yeah, fun. That's what counts. Absolutely, my friend. Bruno Lampira, during the years you've been doing videos, saw you guys like a lot, some games after all this time. What are the systems you still play, and what are the ones you put aside? Well, I can say with me, it depends on the mood, what I want to play. I still play D20s. I play all of the One Ring, the Forbidden Lands, now Cypher. Now, I think the way that I look at an RPG system is when I get a story idea that I want to play out, now I look at what system would be the best to facilitate it. Now I'm going to throw that over to you, Dan.
Actually, you answered my question, or you answered the question the same way I would. As most people on my channel know, I had to move down here to take care of my mom, and there's 4 of us living in this small apartment. So a lot of my stuff has to get put into storage bins. But right now, so for me, I have to keep the games I want to play out, and the games I'm kind of iffy on are put into the storage bin. Cypher is out. Iron Sworn is out. A game no one has ever heard of, which is a recent acquisition called Cromir. And that's all your fault, Rob, by the way.
What's that?
My newest purchase, Cromir. I'll explain in a little bit. And Forbidden Lands. Those are the ones that I keep real handy, that I don't have to go digging for, because those are like my favorites. The Cypher covers everything. Iron Sworn, I like using Iron Sworn a lot, not necessarily for the game, but it makes a very good emulator, especially when I use the delve mechanics to do a hex crawl or a dungeon crawl kind of scenario. But instead of monitoring every little corridor or every little square, I just hit the points of interest. So that covers that greatly. But yeah, Cromir, here's what happened, Rob. Remember my post in my Facebook group about Google reading my mind?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, well, we had talked like we normally do after our live. We chit-chatted, and I mentioned I got a D20 roll low, 3D6 roll low, D8s, D10s. Well, I was doing a mental checklist in my head, and I was like, yeah, there's my I can look and see, there's my D20 roll high, there's my D20 roll low, there's a percentile system. And I went through all the dice, and I'm like, no one has ever came up with a D4 system. I guess the D4 don't get any love. The very next day, you put out your Naibrutu video.
Mm-hmm.
So I was listening to your Naibrutu video, and I was opening up another web page to research it, because I was going to try to follow along. Well, one click led to another click, which led to another click, and the next thing I know, I found a D4 system. I'm like, Google is reading my mind, and Rob is sending me psychic impressions because we had that conversation about the various systems, and then I happen to think there's no D4, and then sure enough, as I'm listening to one of your videos, I find a D4 system.
Yep.
That's crazy.
A lot of people I talked to, they were like, I don't know about that system. And at first I was the same way until I came back to it. And I said, that's brilliant. If you think about it, I mean, let's look at Cypher. You're starting out with your character and you have, all these great attributes they have and everything that they're capable of doing. But what if it was the opposite? You start out and you know nothing. And each game session, you learn a little bit more about your character and what it can do. For a solo experience, that's brilliant. I mean, it really is. I mean, that will keep you in suspense for a while. So Cypher 1. I'm teaching my 7-year-old niece to use various board games to make her own fun instead of long-winded explanations. The one rule she has to tell me why the characters do what they do.
Yeah, it's a great way to teach them.
Yeah.
Like we said, the number one rule is you don't need rules, and that makes sense. Why the character, tell me why the character would do what they do. Makes perfect sense.
I have made when I talked about this in my videos, and I had brought this up, and I said, if you're an aspiring writer, you want to be an author, you want to write books, you know where I suggest you go for a great catalyst for your imagination? Either pick up the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide or the 3rd edition Dungeon Master's Guide, and just look through that. That's going to give you a catalyst of great ideas. So you're doing them a great service by doing that, because actually you're helping them engage with their imagination and being able to unhinge it, if you will, rather than being buried in, I don't want to, how do I put this? Video games are great. They had their, for what they are, but unfortunately they've done a great disservice for the fact that many people just don't engage with their imagination and allow their imaginations to be unhinged. They just put their mind in neutral and just kind of
follow along with the if this equals that and just follow the plot of the video game, and not halftime they don't even read it. They just keep hitting the X button. Just give me to the next fight or next whatever.
Slayer.
Well, hold on. I want to go back to Cyber's thing here. I'm glad you do that, because here's a problem I've seen with, even people our age who play a game. You ask them why their character will do whatever it is they're doing, and the player gives you a response as if the character is actually carrying a DMG, a player's handbook, and a monster manual in their back pocket, and they magically know everything that's in the book. Oh, well, I'm doing this because this does more damage. Oh, your character don't know that thing does more damage. It hurts no matter what. Just because you get an extra 2 or 3 points of damage, why is your character always doing this? Why don't you ever do it? Well, it does more damage. So I make it a point now that with a lot of people, I say, all right, you can go ahead and buy the rule book. They look down and see the rule book, but don't expect you to be able to rules lawyer me at the table, because I'm going to change a few things just to throw you off track. Because I don't know about if you ever had this problem, Rob, but back in the old days when you would describe the monster, well, the players would say, well, show me the picture in the monster manual, what it looks like, because they had the monster manual memorized. So they already knew there, when you turn to that page and you showed, oh, it's a white dragon. It's got this many hit dice and this is his armor class. This is how much damage. And it's like, y'all took the fun out of the game.
In it absolutely. You're absolutely right. In my opinion, one of the greatest horror writers of his time and of our time, Alfred Hitchcock. And if you watch any of his films, you'll notice one thing about all his films, and the reason why they are still good and why they still resonate to this day. And the fact is, Alfred Hitchcock understood that no special effect, costume, or anything could ever replace what kind of terrifying image your imagination could put into that place of that. So for me, that just reinforces the importance of using your imagination. And RPG games certainly do a good job at doing that. And okay, let me see what we got here. Slayer's Realm, for me, I have never felt so connected to a character or setting as I have when I played solo. It's truly amazing once you get used to it. It absolutely is. And the reason why it is for the fact that you're able to engage in a game setting and content with your character to the way that you want. And you're not hindered by a story plot or particularly maybe a GM that isn't prepared or necessarily experienced maybe to go to that direction you want to go with the story. So Don, I'm going to throw your 2 cents in this. Slayer's Realms comment. For me, I felt so connected to a character or setting as I have when I was playing solo. It's truly amazing once you get used to it.
Yeah, my best solo session actually came out while playing Simba Room. Now, Simba Room's kind of a dark setting, and it's got the appropriate artwork in the book. And I was playing the game, and I was using, I was saying I was using Mythic. Well, just so happens that my character was low on food, low on water, low on hit points. I, as a DM, knew that my character was being tracked by a large creature. I just hadn't determined what the creature was yet. So something was chasing me. And then I came across a large group of enemies, and I was literally stuck. It was freezing in the apartment. The AC was kicking hard. I was sweating. I was feeling what my character was feeling because I was so engrossed. I had tuned out everything. I had the appropriate spooky music going on. You could have ran up to me, yelled at my face. I wouldn't have seen you. I wouldn't have heard you. I was like so into the game. Like, oh crap, what do I do? I was feeling the tension that my characters were feeling. Awesome. I've never felt that at the gaming table with people.
For me, one of the things mentioned that way, I had recently read H.P. Lovecraft's Dagon, and I was playing a one-off with the Call of Cthulhu. And then later on that evening, as it just so happened, we had a very foggy night roll through, and I was letting dogs out, and it was dark. And thinking about the story, thinking about the game session, thinking about all that. And then I actually scared the hell out of myself sitting there because the way that the fog banks were contorting and moving against the streetlights, and your imagination fills in the blanks. I swear, for a brief moment, I saw Dagon, and it scared a lot of me. And then it was like I was snapped back to that magic. Like, that's the reason why I love RPG so much, for that fact that you can literally do anything you want and even scare the hell out of yourself too.
Yeah, you can. If you get in that right mood set, you get in that right mindset, anything can happen. Let's see, what do we got here?
Got Mela Winnis, Crano, Ulfram from York. As I catch you live at Artichoke Dip, thank you for your videos. I did find you 3-4 years ago and always enjoy your take. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. 28 millimeter.
I think I've subscribed to him.
I am. That's love seeing your take on Cypher. Have you played with a group? ? No, I'm a soloist. You are welcome to join our Monday group for God-forsaken Cypher. Oh, thank you for the invite very much. It's very kind of you.
Last time I played with a group, it was 2014, as far as an actual group. And then there's one person here who's not the smartest, not the sharpest tool in the shed, not the brightest light that I'm trying to teach how to do solo. But other than that, yeah, I haven't been in a group environment in so long. actually these lives are with Rob are probably the closest thing to a group session.
Okay, so we got Keldon. Yeah, I watched a lot of videos before I actually started solo post. And that's, I mean, I'll tell you what, the first video I made, I was scared to death when I actually went to post that, thinking, how is the world going to take this? How is the internet of YouTube and at large? Am I going to have an angry crowd of people with torches and pitchforks on my front lawn? And I was surprised to see the response to it. So I think, despite everything you read out of the books where it says somebody has to be the GM, somebody has to be the player, I think tabletop gaming companies would sell more books if they would actually take that out of their books and just present their ideas and what you can do with their systems, rather than everything being, this has to be this has to be that.
Yep.
So Kevin Peter writes, if anyone's interested, played Call of Cthulhu co-op using Mythic game emulator cards, and it worked brilliantly. She had no experience with RPGs, and now she's hooked. Awesome. She's hooked on cardboard crack, man.
Cardboard crack.
Okay, so
he got up there twice. Got there twice. Okay.
Yeah, twice here. So if anyone's interested, played Call of Cthulhu co-op with my girlfriend using Mythic cards, and it worked brilliantly. She's had no experience with RPGs, and now she's hooked. Awesome. That's great.
He's got the asterisk. He's probably just correcting an autocorrect or yeah. That's what that universal sign means.
That one's for you.
Yeah, that's Cadlin picking on me. Like I said, he's been in my group. He knows me. We talk to each other 3 or 4 times a week. So, yeah, solo play. We got you, Keldon. We understood.
28mm RPG. Just got my subs. Thanks, Artichoke and Donald. No problem. Thank you for contact.
No problem. I mean, yeah, solo RPG, just because, me and Rob specifically, he's been around the block a little longer than I have when it comes to solo RPG. I learned stuff from the other people as well. Every time I see there's a guy called Kill 10 Rats. He was developing, he wanted to develop a setting to play a character. He has yet to make the character, but he's got 5 half-hour-long videos on building the setting. He's having so much fun building the setting. He hasn't even rolled his first dice yet as far as his character is concerned, and that's awesome. And on the other hand, there's another guy who's doing nothing but dungeon crawls using Mage Knight, a board game, as his primary rule set. He's having a great time. It's like, oh, that's cool. I never thought Mage Knight using a board game like that. But yeah, that could work. So if you got Mage Knight and you need a place to start doing solo RPG, try that. Go. Yeah.
That. So 28mm RPG. Thanks, guys. No, thank you. And I'll tell you what, during the week, I have to get up at the ass crack of dawn. And when I'm drinking my coffee and I see one of your recent uploads, trust me, I enjoy it. I normally sit, drink my morning coffee before work, and I will watch your videos. So keep them coming. Slayer's Realm, gotta run. Loved your show. Talk to you later.
Absolutely. All right. Well, good night, Slayer.
Catalin, I'm not picking on you. Just reminded you of the scary dream you had.
Yep.
And then, of course, Cyber 1, yeah, Kill 10 Rats. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good channel. He actually deserves a few more subscribers than he got. He put a lot of work. I mean, I was actually listening to one of his videos today. I was going through how he was doing the setting because all this complication and, all the crazy things. Imagine this. I'm going to play the Cypher. I'm going to use Ironsworn as my Delve mechanic emulator, Delve portion of it. And if I come across a problem that I need to roll on a random chart, I'm going to be using Worlds Without Number. And then at the same time, still keep my 6 deck of cards handy. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Cyber 1, are you watching your channel? I want to see if he responds.
What, did you just sub to him or something?
I'm getting ready to subscribe. Yeah. I was just seeing if you're still on the live stream or not. I seen we had a couple of viewers drop off, which is okay. Yes. All right. Here we go. There you go. You got another subscriber. I know when you first started your channel out, and you know, the first milestone, you hit that first 100. The next milestone is when you hit that 1,000. But I know that feeling. Every subscriber helps, man. It really does. It's what drives you to keep making content and putting it out there, to know that there's so many people that enjoy it back.
Exactly. It's always good. I mean, I'm not one of those people. My self-worth isn't determined by how many subscribers I got, but it's always great to see that number go up.
And two, it's one of the reasons why I can say I still do this.
Right.
So when I started my channel out, man, you know, I'm talking about RPGs, stuff like that. This is my hobby. And it wasn't until I had a gentleman reach out to me and he had thanked me. He said he had come back from the Iraq War. He was suffering greatly from PTSD. He was having all kinds of issues in his life. And the one thing that his therapist said that was making the most amount of changes in his life was solo RPG. He would sit down and it was actually helping him get past some of these more tragic events that, you know, he had experienced. You know, I mean, I that really took that to heart. I'm like, that is cool, thinking that I was able to impact somebody's life on that level and help them with something they were struggling with like that.
Yeah, I can say the same thing. Cadlin can back me up. When we were in North Carolina, we knew two different Mikes. And in order to separate them, we gave them nicknames. And one of them was called Angry Mike. And yeah, he used he wasn't playing solo. He was playing D&D with us in a group. And he said, yeah, that is his therapy for PTSD. He'd rather go around and slay fictional creatures than, you know, do something harmful to an actual human being. So
yeah, it makes you feel good when you hear that, when you know you have.
And it happened to work out. Of course, he's doing it with a bunch of other Marines who understood what he was going through. Because, you know, on one scale or another, especially in my case with him, we both served in Desert Storms, and that's where he got his PTSD from. So I was able to relate to him. Yeah, dude, I understand. You're welcome to be here, because that's a lot. Sometimes it's all they need to hear is you're welcome to be here, because, you know, they don't feel welcome sometimes. You know, you don't know what's going through their head half the time, but at least civilians don't. But at least the military guy can at least have an idea of what he's going through, and it's like, yeah, you're welcome to be here. You're welcome to be here.
That's one of the reasons why. So if you notice in my last couple of videos, I've been wearing a Castles and Crusades T-shirt through this OGL debacle, and I think some people may think, oh, look, he's a mouthpiece for Castles and Crusades or Troll Lord Games, or he could be a sellout or what have you. That's not the reason why I do it. The reason why I do it is they are vets themselves, and they also offer discounts to veterans. So to me, that's a great service. I mean, thinking about that comment I got, helping this gentleman to help him get past his PTSD, then you have this other publishing company out here that offers their products at a discount for veterans. Is well worth me promoting that on my channel and getting the word out there.
I'm all for the little guy anyway. I mean, even before the OGL debacle, I have games in my RPG collection I guarantee no one's ever heard of, because there's nothing on the YouTubes about them, except maybe, you know, a generic video, make any character, do this, do that, and it's just a bunch of pictures. You don't have any rules set. Half time, all you got is the name. And unless you know what name you're looking for, you're never going to find that video. Elemental, I know no one's ever heard of that one. That's a one-man show. That D4 system that I was telling you about that, you psychically sent to me, I just bought it because, well, here's the thing. I did some searching for it. It's obviously a one-man show because it's almost out of print. There was only 2 copies at Noble Knight, 4 copies on Amazon, and 2 used copies on eBay, and that was it. So I was like, is the universe telling me I have to get this game? And I'm glad the universe did tell me to get this game, because as we were talking about Cypher system, Cypher is a great narrative system. It's not that, keep track of every little square on the miniature board, but that's what I was looking for, a game like that. It fit the bill. So I was like, I'm glad I got it.
Before I get to this next comment, I was thinking, it's a good thing that we do have this state divide between us, the several states, because if we lived any closer, I'm sure we would both be homeless, living in a huge cardboard box with our RPG games around us, because we wouldn't be able to afford anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next comment I'm going to get to is from Cybrim1. So I haven't posted in a while because I went through a bad breakup. Sorry to hear that. Had 3 surgeries and my mom died.
Sorry to hear that, dude.
Sorry to hear that, man. We're always here for you. You're part of the solo community.
Yep.
Feel free to reach out if you need to talk anytime, and we're always here.
Yep.
So it's I can understand. I can understand. RPG's been there for me through several rough times that I went through. That it's really helped out in a great way. Okay, what do we got here? Keldon, Don, do you have live plays on your channel?
Currently, no. And that's because I had to, like I said, move down to help my mom. And there's a bunch of us, we're crowded in this apartment right now, and I'm still fighting the Veterans Administration so I can get some more money. And then eventually I'll take care of mom and we'll get our own place. But I just can't set anything up. Even just to do this live with Robert, I had to tell everybody, hey, at 6 o'clock, I'm doing a live. Y'all need to vacate to your room. I had very little space to operate. So it's kind of hard because, Rob, if you got a table that you can set everything up, you can leave that table there and you're fine. You can come back to it. Well, that's how I was doing it when I lived alone. I had that big dining room table. No one else was coming over. I set my stuff up and could play all the time. And I actually did shoot a video of me doing a Shadow of the Demon Lord live play. But then when I went to rewatch it, I was like, sometimes us YouTubers, we're our own biggest critic. Sometimes we'll do a video and it's like, I really don't like this video. Do I really want to upload it? I know Rob's done it at least once, twice. Like, do I really want to upload this video?
Yeah, I can say, okay, so right now I'm doing a live stream. So I go out there and I tell the family, hey, I'm doing a live stream. So anything you guys do not want broadcasted to the world, just think about that. So my wife will be on one end of the house. My daughter's on the other end. They play a game called Animal Jam. So instead of them moving their desks closer together, they decide to scream back and forth at one another across the house. So, I have to plan these things very carefully. Whereas if I make a video and something happens, I can always get back and edit that out.
Yeah, you can always cut it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. I guess the point I'm getting at is if I was alone and knowing I wasn't going to have interruptions or stuff like that, it'd be way easier to do a live stream playthrough that way. But you always
trust me, as soon as I get my own place, yes, I plan on doing live throughs and demos because I want to show everybody, okay, here's how I use the Mythic emulator, here's how I use Adventure Crafter. Here's a small part of the story that was developing. Because there's a lot of miniature war gamers, and strangely enough, there's enough weirdos out there that like to watch people roll dice and move little miniatures around. So there's plenty of YouTube channels on there. I'm like, I can join that crowd. I just don't have the place to set up. If I can find a private place where I can be loud, so I can make sure the microphone picks me up. There's all these little things you got to think about when you're doing a YouTube video. You got to make sure usually I'm just using a cell phone camera, But you got to make sure you got some decent lighting, because if you got something that's kind of glossy like this, you get that shine, and that drives people crazy. And then there's other times, there's some YouTubers I cannot watch because they got good stuff, but when they talking like this, so I have to punch the volume up so I can hear them. But then when they roll the die, they're rolling the die through a dice tower, and all you hear is clack, 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 and it's like, oh man, dude, this looks like a very good video, but you need to fix your audio. You need to either move that dice tray away or something. So yeah, there's all those little things you got to think about when you're making a YouTube video that a lot of people don't take into consideration. I'm sitting here using a laptop camera, nothing fancy, just the microphone you're hearing is from this little thing right here. No high-speed equipment.
Yeah, I'm just talking to you through an iPhone speaker is all I'm talking to you through. I mean, if I wanted to, I got an audio interface, I got a condenser mic and all that. I could really amp it out and just blow the speakers out on whatever you're watching this on, but I don't think that'd be very nice. So Cybrim 1, between you two, Geek Gamers, and me, myself, Die, it really helped me through these last 3 years, and trying to share it with my niece is amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you for considering us and, introducing it to a whole new generation, because that is really what our hobby needs. Our hobby needs to be passed down to the generations, and after we're long dead and gone,
somebody's got to carry that torch.
Yep,
somebody's got to carry that torch, because all right, do we have any more questions? Because according to my clock, we've been on here 3 hours and 15 minutes.
32 seconds and counting. Yes, sir.
All right, so unless y'all have some more questions, Rob's a busy man. He's got have you already filmed your second video, or you have to film that one?
Second video's already done, just have to upload it. But I wanted to wait after we got the live stream done. I didn't want to pull so it wouldn't be competing.
Right.
I'm going to film my second actual game playthrough, and I already gave you some ideas of the way that's going to go, so I don't want to ruin that. I want to leave that it is as a surprise for people. So, but that's what I have going on. I will be playing the Cypher system again, and I am so looking forward to it. So with that being said, if we don't have any more comments coming in,
all right, everybody, here's what you got to do. Look down below. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, the Artichoke Dip. Hit that little like button. Hit that like button, and then hit the little bell icon and then go type in the Solo RPG Guy in Google, find this ugly mug, and subscribe to that channel too, because that helps motivate us. When we see those little subscriber counts go up, we know people are watching, people are listening. Because if no one's watching, no one's listening, Rob's not going to be inclined to shoot another video and upload it and go through all that headache. And I'm not going to be inclined when I get my own place to shoot a video. So we want you to motivate us. You got to interact with us. The more you interact with us, the more we know you're interested in what we're doing. So
absolutely. And if I can get the word out there and help more people, Solo RPG, use your imaginations, unplug from the digital world for a while, ground yourself to this world, have fun, and realize you don't need a computer chip to do it, because the one between your ears is the most powerful one ever created. All right, we do have one here from Catalan.
Oh yeah, you can't tell me what to do. I've already subbed to both of you.
Well, okay, yeah, that's true. But this stream is going to end eventually. I guess just watch a blank screen. That's okay.
That's right. He'll probably call me tomorrow and give me a hard time about it. All right, Cadlin, good night.
All right, my friends. Well, this is where we're going to round it up. And here's one thing, a nice suggestion. So Don has his own Facebook group, and I have mine as well, plus our YouTube channels. If you could think of some great ideas, maybe subject you'd like to see me and Don talk about that's Solo RPG related, drop us a line, let us know, because we technically correspond before we make the next video and talk about what the video should be about. So your input is greatly appreciated, particularly if there's something you want to hear about. Drop us a line.
Yep.
All right. Now, both of you. Okay.
Good night, Cadlin.
Thank you for tuning in. And this is Artichoke Dip and the Solo
RPG Guy.
Signing off, my friends. Game on.
Game on. Happy gaming.